gaining. Then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, yes, sir. Then again I'm falling. Sometimes I'm gaining. Then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, yes, sir. Then again I'm falling. Let Jesus work it out. Please, your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Please, your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Please, your Father would work it out. Oh, let God work it out. Oh, work it out. You work it out for Mother Lisa. Sometimes I'm gaining, then again I'm losing. Sometimes I'm rising, yes, sir. Then
All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. David Patrick Carey with Church of the Eternal Logos, and I have the internet's sassiest BIPOC E-Diva with us today. Yours truly, Jay Dyer. What's going on, brother?
Not much, man. Running the candle at both ends, burning the candle at both ends. I don't even know the cliches.
Well, it's true. You're always so damn busy, dude. You're always doing stuff. I thought you already were taking out, your 401k. You did the debate retirement. I thought you were, getting off the scene for a while, but I guess not.
That was some 66-dimensional Emperor Palpatine chess moves there. Because I knew as soon as I retired, all of the goobers would come out of the woodwork saying, "Ha, he won't debate. He won't debate." So then I come out of retirement. Now there's more debates than I can keep up with. So we got
seriously,
we got like 6 or 7 coming up. So
well, and I saw the one with Molyneux.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are going to run that one back. It looks like. You think he's figured out the 7 coconuts or no?
I don't know what to expect from Stefan, but my guess is that he has not brushed up on anything since our previous engagement. Now, I like Stefan on a personal level. We always get along, but I don't expect him to bring the heat. But he may. Yeah. Maybe he'll surprise me.
Who else do you have lined up?
Okay, so we got the next upcoming thing is that in Nashville. And then, October, we've got 2 debates with David Wood in Orlando.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, David Wood. Dude, so that one's a long time coming.
Yeah, that's DebateCon 9. And then I'll also be debating the Muslim guy, Dr. Javad Hashmi, who is a liberal Muslim. So that's going to be weird because I've only debated the Sunni, Salafi Dawa crowd.
Right.
Not sure what to expect from a liberal Muslim, but so that's 3 debates at DebateCon 9 in Orlando. Then we have World War Debate in Nashville, September 12th with Stefan. And then we've got, and by the way, we just finalized a couple days ago with Trent Horn 2 debates for DebateCon 10. Don't know where that's going to be yet, but we have both finally agreed. We had to negotiate that for months. So 2 debates with Trent Horn. The topics are, did the Roman Catholic Church reverse its teachings, dogmatic, whatever teachings on church and state? I'm going to be arguing yes. And then the other one was something like, did the Orthodox Church depart from the patristic teaching on marriage or divorce and contraception, something like that?
I see. So was it like the agreement was you both got a prompt?
Yeah, well, he first wanted to do the divorce and remarriage and contraception prompt, and I was like, well, it's only fair because I've been asking him for years to do something related to the Roman Catholic Church, Vatican II, via the state. And it took rewording that prompt probably 20 times before he would accept it, because initially I wanted to debate him on geopolitics of the papacy. And I thought it was funny because Trent would say I'm a conspiracy theorist in his tinfoil hat, and I'm like, well, then it should be pretty easy to come refute this line of argument, right?
Right.
And then he would say, well, I'm not a specialist in geopolitics, so I can't argue Vatican geopolitics. And I'm like, well, which one is it? Is it require specialization in high IQ, or is it a crazy conspiracy theory that retards believe, right?
Right.
So we finally settled on that type of a prompt, which is fine with me. Anyway, but then we've got, I think we're going to do a 2-on-2. So we're going to do in Nashville, just like the Freemason debate. DJ, shout out to DJ. He's one of Tucker's producers. He wants to set up one of the 3 that we know for. He wants to set up a 2-on-2, me and Shamoon versus Jake and another Muslim, perhaps one of those girls that's up in. I don't know if you've seen this weird trend of
the one that just you can only see her eyes.
Well, there's actually 2 of these. So
what?
Yeah, there's Cora and one called Itachi. And so I don't know. It's just so bizarre because typically that's not what Muslim women do or Muslim theology. It's just odd.
In full burqa.
Yeah. But Jake wants to do that. So we're looking at a 2 versus 2 in Nashville live.
Who's your partner?
Me and Shamoon.
Oh, Shamoon, that's right.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, against 2 Muslim women?
Mm-hmm. No.
Oh my God.
Well, Jake's not a Muslim woman. Jake, the Muslim metaphysician, and a woman.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, close enough.
Actually,
dude,
Jake's been really fair lately. He's been actually calling out. I don't know if you saw me interacting with Libiano. That's like their new Dawa guy. And Libiano tried to corner me and kind of blew me away. But Jake made this whole like takedown of the guy, and he's the guy he trained Libiano.
Oh, okay.
And so then he took down Libiano and said, "This guy's a joke. He's no good."
Good faith. I know before there's a lot of drama going back and forth between the parties, so that's good. Hopefully, cordial, respectful relationships.
What we're looking at, yeah. Well, and again, you have to keep in mind. I mean, Islam isn't really founded on the idea that you extend cordial grace to infidels. You know what I mean?
Absolutely not. But you mentioned Tucker, and that was one of the things I wanted to open with was, man, your Tucker interview was fantastic. And
appreciate
I was curious,
that.
what you got any, background information about how the debate went? I know that you were pretty tired. You mentioned that in your live stream following it. But how did you think the Tucker interview went? What has been the reception so far?
You said debate. You mean
or interview? Sorry, interview.
Okay, yeah.
Interview. I misspoke.
Yeah, so basically, I've told the story a lot, so I don't want to repeat it too much. But you don't really know, like, you spend the whole day with Tucker basically that day. So you kind of hang out, you do breakfast, he is catered. I already like Tucker a lot, but I gained a lot more respect being in person, talking to him for the whole day, getting a sense of what he's all about. And he came off to me very genuine. I didn't get any bullshit, no deception or nothing snaky. He's just very, very honest. He just straight up tells you, and he doesn't care what, like, he'll tell you what he thinks about Candace or Erica Kirk or Nick Fuentes or anybody. He'll just tell you what he thinks, just lays it all out. So I got that good sense about, how he was going to proceed, because they don't really tell you exactly how the debate's going to go, or no, now I'm doing it, the discussion. because I think they wanted to be fresh. So I asked what topics they wanted to cover, and I listed, several, like 6 or 7, and she was just like, Lexi was like, yeah, let's do those. And I was like, well, which one you want? So, and I think they do that because they don't want people sort of like memorizing a script. You know what I mean?
Right.
They want it to be a fresh conversation. So they kind of left it, which is fine. I'm great, hopefully, I think, at doing improv discussions on whatever topic at this point. So I didn't actually know he was going to bring up orthodoxy. I mean, I thought we were going to talk about geopolitics. I really crammed with a bunch of geopolitical stuff. I thought we were going to talk about the Rothschilds. And as soon as we got there for breakfast, he was like, yeah, I'm over all that. I don't care. He's like, I was like, well, I assumed you wanted to talk about Zionism, Rothschilds, Israel. Yeah, I'm talking about that a lot. I'm over all that. I'm over it. So I was like, well, okay, what do you want to talk about? He's like, we'll see. So we had breakfast. And then as soon as we sit down to record, he's like, Orthodoxy. And I'm like, oh, okay. So you want to go there?
So you guys just dive right into it. That's kind of how the procedure is. You guys,
yeah.
share
Well,
breakfast,
but the breakfast wasn't that way at all. So the whole breakfast, and it's about a 2-hour breakfast time where you're just sitting there chatting, getting to know him. The whole breakfast is like, we talked about anything but. We were talking about media, people in media, drama, Trump drama, all of that, right? We're talking about JD Vance. We're talking about, Alex Jones. We're talking about Nick Fuentes. We're talking about everything in media. And then as soon as the recording starts, it's like orthodoxy, right? So it didn't bother me. I'm happy to talk about whatever, and I'm just glad to be there. So,
yeah. Well, he seemed very interested in orthodoxy. Like he
he
seemed
is.
like
Well, he
genuinely
admits that.
curious. And how cool would it be if Tucker actually ended up going to churches? And because I know his producer, we met him. Well, you introduced me to him in Nashville at one of your events. This was 4 years ago or something. And
Yeah, Scooter's Orthodox.
Yeah.
Carter's Orthodox. Lexi is not Orthodox, and then DJ is still Protestant. But I think they're very open to it because obviously Tucker is very interested, and I'm the 4th Orthodox person that he's sort of done a degree of interview with, right? So he did that segment with Father Hears about his spiritual experience.
Right.
He had Father Stephen DeYoung on, Father Josiah, and then he has me. So I think obviously, right, he's very interested in Orthodox Christianity.
And wasn't it like Stephanopoulos' sister, the nun from?
Oh, I forgot about her. Yeah, technically that would be. I mean, that's a schismatic group.
Yeah,
you're right.
she is.
I just actually forgot about her.
What is she?
I don't know, an old calendar group or something.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't realize that. Interesting. Yeah, that'd be so cool. And just like the Tucker did on the Charlie Kirk Memorial, the only religious figure he brought on was Father Josiah, which I thought was pretty telling, right? That was the biggest, news event for a month in America, and his dedication to Charlie was with an Orthodox priest.
Good point. I forgot about that. Yeah, I remember that kind of went viral because Jack Posobiec and a bunch of people shared that. But yeah, I mean, what he expressed to me after the interview, you kind of sit and just hang out for the afternoon, and we had another 2-3 hour conversation about orthodoxy mainly. And he was saying, well, I'll be honest with you, I'm still wrestling with certain topics that I can't debate. And I kind of thought he didn't like debate, and he was like, no, I love debate. In fact, I was on the debate team, back in college or whatever. So he's a huge fan of debate. And he was like, I'll be honest with you, when it comes to Sola Scriptura and icons, he's like, I struggle with it, but I cannot debate with it.
Right.
He's like, I'm just not, convinced and intellectually ready to tackle that yet. So I took that as like he's being honest. Like he could just say, yeah.
But he's at least open to it. I mean, that would be awesome. So some of the topics. So today, guys, the goal is for me to literally pick Jay's brain. I was telling Jay backstage, I've been wanting to do, literally, I told my wife probably 3 months ago, hey, I was wanting to reach out to Jay because we do about a stream once or two a year. And I was like, but I don't even know what topic. We've done Protestantism twice. We did deconstruction. We did refutation of Protestantism. We did the Vatican.
Tolkien and transhumanism. Don't forget that.
Yeah, with Tristan Haggard one time.
Yep.
We've done transhumanism. We've done the 1960s counterculture on your channel about Timothy Leary.
Yep.
We did Lasky's The Mystical Church of the East. We've done British. The last stream that we did together on my channel was British intelligence and Islam, which was fascinating.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dang, I don't even know what to ask Jay about to not make it like just talk about e-drama online, like a legitimate topic. And then I thought, well, shit, I should just ask him his opinion on a bunch of different stuff going on. So that's what we're doing today. It's kind of just a free-flowing conversation on current events, and legitimately just curious what Jay's thoughts are, and just batting it back and forth.
And to
One
tie
of
it
the
into the
big
bigger picture, because people get lost in news and they forget
Yes.
the big picture.
And that's what the point of today's conversation. Every topic we're talking with, the goal is to provide a bigger picture, and that's why I titled it "What the News Isn't Telling You." You know, they're so myopic on getting you to focus on particulars, but I think a big one that I was curious, and I know FDA put us in a group message, but COVID. We are totally vindicated. Everyone is vindicated on the COVID hysteria, especially after Fauci's pleading the fifth on Capitol Hill. So, what are your kind of thoughts on the aftermath of, now it's 6 years later, which is crazy to think about. 6 years ago was COVID. That literally feels like two or three. But what are your thoughts now,
Yeah, well,
2026?
without sounding too arrogant, I really knew that we would be vindicated because I think most of what was going on was pretty transparent from the beginning. I mean, I remember the first few days of the coup, it was kind of unclear. Is this real? Is this a psyop? I had a few days of like, being uncertain, but I think it was pretty clear that they're really pushing globally these bizarre mandates that really don't make sense with what we've seen so far, even if it's real. And I think over time, the contradictions, the stories, the narratives, the mandates, the demands, pushing for the tracking and tracing, vaccine passports, all of that it was just so transparent. At the same time as we had, live coverage, me with Alex covering pretty consistently the SPARS document, Cladex, Crimson Contagion, all of these previous drills, the Event 201. And then we had at the same time, I just bought Klaus's books in 2018-19.
Oh yeah,
And
that was the fourth industrial
yeah, so I
revolution.
had Klaus on hand ready to go. And it's like, this dude is literally telling you, like, this is what all this is for. So, we had King Charles going to the Davos and saying all this. I mean, they just came out so heavily with the big agenda that it was pretty clear, I think, big picture what was going on. So I was very confident that we'd be vindicated, although nobody really knows how these sort of hearings never seem to go anywhere. Nobody ever gets in trouble,
No.
but it's good to see that, like, it's pretty obvious that, that guy's total piece of garbage. I mean, who says, I am the science? I am science. Right. I mean, it's
Right.
just so megalomaniac. So,
Oh, it is like the Jim Jordan phenomenon. Like, how many years now since like 2016 forward? We got to hold a hearing and we're gonna do X, Y, Z, and nothing comes from it. It's just nonsense every single time.
well, and of course, Biden pardoned him, but when he was leaving. So, remember that?
Yeah.
He pardoned Fauci. So, um, what do you, if he didn't do anything wrong, why is he getting pardoned? Right. So,
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think anything's going to come from the COVID stuff, but it's amazing how there is going to be no remorse from the powers that be, which why would you expect so? But at least maybe in the Orthodox Church, right? I think Father Zachariah Lynch was on Buck Johnson's podcast and talked about, and I was speaking with FDA about this, like there are so many priests that were almost defrocked, suspended because of their refusal to take the COVID jabs. And, my former Metropolitan Joseph, I'm Antiochian, and, he had a major fiasco and a falling out. We don't need to get into that, but they were talking like plastic spoons, 6 feet, social distancing, all this stuff during COVID. And, we could at least have some type of reconciliation within the Orthodox Church. It would be nice. Again, do I expect it to happen? Probably not.
yeah, I think, I had quite a bit of opposition from bishops and priests as well, as we all know. We
Yeah.
took a strong stance like Father Hears did. Many people did.
Yep.
A lot of threats, a lot of warnings, a lot of harassment. And we even had bishops assigning people to harass me and others, literally. We had people saying that I needed to get in trouble, I needed to get excommunicated, I needed to be reported to the IRS, people in the OCA, priests doing this. So it was kind of an unbridled, just sort of assault. And the weird part was that during that period, if I ever spoke up, then it was me attacking priests and bishops. So it's like, you can't defend yourself, you can't explain yourself. If you do, look at the mean ortho bros doing everything we say they do wrong, when in actual fact you had multiple clerics, Archbishop Benjamin of the OCA, Bishop Golitsyn of the OCA, really honing in and really not doing it themselves, obviously, but basically assigning people who we found out, unfortunately, nowadays, turns out that by those own people's admission, they had severe mental problems as they were tasked with sort of coming after us.
Right.
And they've publicly admitted all this. So those people went away, interestingly, but they sort of were there to do their duty. Now, what I'm getting at is, you note the sort of unscrupulous approach of OCA bishops basically tasking and assigning people to come after me and other people who they know are unstable individuals, admittedly unstable by their own admissions now. Okay.
Right.
And I have all this saved. And they knew all that. They knew this was sort of assigned harassment to sort of get the dirt and take us down. And of course, it didn't work because, unfortunately, the boomers, well, I guess fortunately for us, they don't know how the internet works. So they thought that just sort of pulling rank during that time would work. But it didn't do anything except sort of put them in a worse situation in the long run. And now that all of that has essentially gone away, all the COVID stuff, I think we were totally vindicated. We know it was a psyop. We knew it was, a larger agenda. But the expectation would be that if I was in the wrong, I would be expected to apologize.
Right. We all would.
The clergy do significant wrongs. Not only do they not apologize, they just wait and expect that everybody will just forget about it.
Which is sad because everybody has a frisk brain and they probably will forget about it.
Exactly.
FDA and I were talking about this recent, it was kind of going around the last 3 years, but there was a recent Medium article. Only according to a survey among Gen Z, 30 to 50% have an inner monologue. I don't even know how you read or have critical thought if you don't have a voice inside your head.
I mean, you've done streams pointing out that they can't read.
Yeah, that is true. That was another thing, is only about 45 million people in America have above a 6th grade reading level. They can barely read a newspaper, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty, trying to get wealthy off writing of books is a terrible move in the 21st century. Nobody can literally.
Yeah.
read.
Well, it's funny because I don't have any direct proof of this. It's just my own thought process and observation. But a lot of, we've been to 5 funerals in the last 2 years. And several of those people were not old. So, and all the people that I'm thinking of, except for one, and not just funerals, but significant hospital problems, including my own dad. I mean, these were all quadruple boosted boomers and Gen X. So, and a lot of these people, we warned them that I would not do all that because it could exacerbate existing conditions. I can't prove that. I'm just saying that those were the things that we said to these friends and family back during the COOF. And unfortunately, many of those people are not with us now. But, this is why, and this is what we were saying at the time. It's like, if you go back to the 2000s or the 90s, there's no cost in denying conspiracies, right?
Right.
Oh, I don't believe the JFK event. Okay, fine. There's no cost in that. But when you get up to 2020, 2022, to outright deny so-called large-scale psyops and quote conspiracies, now there's a cost. Right. Because if you're going to go with the establishment, you're going to place your bet on the establishment, and the establishment is full of liars and Satanists and disgusting people, there's now a heavy price to pay if you choose wrong.
Right. Absolutely. And it seems like, trust in the institutions, it's like this weird juxtaposition. I don't know if you've noticed it online. It feels like, Alex Jones, Lord Voldemort, always talks about how people are more awake now than ever. It seems like that's the case. Like a lot of conspiracies are almost normalized, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it feels like people are dumber than shit than ever. I mean, I was telling someone, it feels like doing long form educational content was easier just a few years ago than today. It just feels like the short TikTok feed, the brain rot from immediate short form content. People are not in the same mood for long form educational content than like 3-4 years ago. I don't know. Do you feel that same way or no?
Absolutely. I think you can see it in the reactions to anything high profile. It's very much emotional reaction. It's not logical argumentation or critical thinking. We've seen this obviously in the debate sphere,
Yeah.
where debate, and I don't have a problem with blood sports entertaining debates. I think they're fun.
Neither do I.
But the problem is that when it gets into essentially only being that, say in terms of apologetics, right? The last several public debates I've done relating to theology, there have been explicit open cheating. They're just reading ChatGPT scripts. They're reading AI scripts. They're
Well, that dude
doing
had like meta glasses on, didn't he?
yeah. We had a Cholo cheater with meta glasses. We had
Cholo cheater.
Captain Crack Rock was doing
The torta
ChatGPT.
Cholo cheater.
Yeah, Captain Crack Rock was doing ChatGPT live in the debate.
Was that the one a few days ago? Because I
that's
didn't catch the debate, but I caught a clip, and
no,
it clearly looked like you would
No, he
say
was.
something. He would chat GPT it or AI, get an AI response, and then he would turn and
no.
talk
That's
to you
just
as if
one,
that
bro.
was-
That's just one of several. That's Marquette. So Marquette was the atheist blacktivist manosphere guy from 2 days ago. He was doing it.
Well, what is his shit?
Captain Crack Rock is a Black Hebrew Israelite. He's like the top.
Oh God.
He's the biggest of the Black Hebrew Israelites, and I debated him twice, and he was using ChatGPT. So when the Muslim debate that I did at DebateCon 8, my first debate was Waleed Naeem, the Muslim guy, and from where I was sitting up on the stage, I could look and see he was reading a ChatGPT script off his phone, and I'm like, "Are you like your opening statements is ChatGPT?" That kid that I was trying to set up a debate with, Jesus and Whatnot, it was a popular Instagram, that 19-year-old, 20-year-old, whatever he is. That guy admits that when he did the Need God debate, he cheated and was using AI for his opening statement. There was another Muslim debate where this happened. I forget what it was. But anyway, so essentially we're at the point where now I'm really stressing that debate needs to be formal and in person, because that's really the only way to exclude AI. Anyway, your question wasn't about debate, though. Your question was, but it's an example of
the
how
same point.
it's how people are just relying on some spit out AI prompt, and they've never read any of these books. That's why I called that black dude 2 nights ago the blacktivist. The thing that started the debate getting really crazy was he started spouting out these weird claims that Romanian monasteries own slaves, and I'm like, okay, what?
What?
I said, what's your source for that? And he was like, bro, it's just a fact, bro. And I'm like, okay, maybe it is, but cite the source. Like, where are you getting that? Because I was like, I don't think you've actually read anything on this. I think you're just saying that. And he's like, I don't have a source. It's just a fact. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll just start asserting facts that don't have sources. Cool.
Right.
So yeah, those are a great example. And then of course you're absolutely right that the reels and the TikTok brain has just taken over, and it's sad because the younger you go, the worse it is.
Right. No, that I totally noticed that just with people's attention spans and willing to engage in like critical thinking. I think being emotive or reacting to things is absolutely in vogue because it does not require you to focus or think
Exactly.
about anything.
It's lazy. Exactly.
So, well, we're speaking about debates and stuff. I was curious about your thoughts on Protestantism in America. So, whether it be Stephen Anderson or Joel Webbin or all these different Protestant pastors, it seems like they've certainly put Orthodoxy in the crosshairs. And it seems like every other day there's on X, I see some Protestant pastor talking about how Orthodox or pagans or some just total nonsensical thing. Curious what your thoughts are on Protestantism in America. You know, my running thesis is obviously they're scared because they're hemorrhaging people, but legitimately, I don't think it's going to exist in 100 years. Like it is dead. In my opinion, it's a carcass. It's dying. There's nothing there. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on Protestantism in America and their seeming focus on orthodoxy as a threat.
You know, it's interesting because it doesn't seem to be a lot of real world. It's not like there's some mass conversion. You know, I mean, it's great that we had this last year estimations of 20,000 catechumens coming in, but in the big picture, that's not like some massive conversion. That's tens of thousands, which is great. It's exponentially bigger than it was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, it was 2,000 converting. Now it's 20,000. I would expect in 5 years it'll be 200,000. But my guess would be that the perception is that because it's very popular online, I think we really won online, at least in terms of we've taken over debates. I mean, Dawa is dead debate wise, and even Jake and other Muslims are basically admitting that what Dawa was 4 years ago is dead. So we've defeated Dawa. We've really had no significant Protestant challengers in the debate sphere at all.
Who is their leader? Who is the Protestant, face for debate and presentation? I don't even know who.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so they have these sort of voices, but they don't have anything for debate because James White doesn't really debate much anymore. Wes Huff did one debate and then retired because
he debated.
He debated like the lowest hanging fruit ever, and it's like, really? That's so your whole career publicly is built on that, and then you can retire from debates. It's like,
right.
It's such a cop out. Mike Winger, but he won't debate. So basically they have these popular channels, but they won't debate. Ruslan talked a bunch of crap, but he won't debate. So, they're really, Gavin Ortland won't debate, talks all this crap. So they really just are lacking in people with a strong, aggressive public attitude. And that I think is the number one thing that people are seeing as a huge flaw. If you really believe these things, why can't you, why is there not one aggressive Protestant guy? And they're all pretty effeminate too. I mean, Gavin Ortland's at this, church that's got gay stuff going on. They all whine and cry about tone policing.
What is Wes Huff's reason for not engaging with you or doing a debate? Because that seems right up his alley. Given
the initial
online,
the initial replies directly to me were, "I don't debate other Christians because we believe the same gospel." And I said, "Well, that's a big surrendering of the classical Reformation teaching because the classical reformers killed each other over these ideas."
Right.
So maybe we could debate that. Do we teach the same gospel? And he said, "No, I'm not interested in that." And then eventually over time, when I started going after Gavin Ortland's dad's gay ecumenist church, then it became a kind of an excuse to say, "Oh, he's too mean. You can't, he's not even worth interacting with because he just is so mean." And it's like, well, I mean, is it a gay ecumenist church or not? Like that should be the question, not is this guy mean, right? And they'll call out other people for gay stuff, but then they'll excuse it when it's Gavin's dad's church. So it's just a lot of hypocrisy that I think people who have some sensibilities about them are noticing. And so they're seeing that online in terms of what's popular online. Protestants, Dawa, and even now Roman Catholics were pretty much shut down. So I think Trent at least sees that. So he's at least the last one willing to come back and try to do some Roman Catholic debates. But they just did so poorly in the last several years that they retreated into whining about people being mean and tone policing, which is, in my opinion, an excuse for not wanting to step up and do the hard work. So that is not necessarily the same thing, though, as like whether that's translating into numbers, because again, we still don't have massive conversions to Orthodoxy, but it's beginning. You're seeing the rumblings of it. And I think they sense the possibility of losing more people to Orthodoxy.
Right. What's the online energy of Catholicism? It doesn't seem to be, like a couple years ago, whether it be Lofton or all those different guys, very antagonistic, very aggressive. Doesn't seem like and maybe I have a false perception, but it doesn't seem like they're as aggressive on the Orthodox as of late. Is that true, or is
Well, I
some of
mean,
the tragic half movement losing its
there's
momentum?
whispers. I can't confirm this. There's whispers that Lofton is doubting Rome now. So, but
Oh,
again, I can't confirm that. That's just sort of whispers. And I think you can see that too with, I mean, his shift away from apologetics into basically news stories. And you saw the same thing with Ruslan. Ruslan is basically just Christian TMZ. I'm serious.
I know.
He just covers like gossip, and then you see Lofton really going the same route. And there could be other reasons too, like they could be doing that just for business, for YouTube numbers, right? Because covering the news is probably a lot more immediately relevant for clicks than covering these theological topics.
Right.
So I think there's probably multiple motives going on with that, but no, they've lost a lot of their aura and their motion because they had such a such a poor performance last year with tripling down on the idea that Muslims, Christians, and Jews all worship the same God. And the academic they brought forward to defend that lost his mind and flipped out and ended up pushing gay stuff and teaming up with gay dudes. And so that was a huge,
yeah, I remember that. Well, you
Trent
did the one
Doherty.
with Tim Gordon, and I've never interacted with Gordon, but he seems like a genuine nice guy. But
Yeah, I mean, Tim was the last breath of the sort of academic approach to Catholicism that we've seen. And I don't think those debates went well for Tim. I think the majority, all the polls unanimously said Tim lost. So I think they just kind of retreated for a while. And then, when I retired, then suddenly, oh, haha, we won. Dyer's retired. And I was like, okay, let's do some debates. So they kind of forced Trent back into, doing it. But they just don't want to do it. And you can figure out, you can pick whatever reason why you think that is. But I think they've lost their aura and their motion because we are very aggressive. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, it's a masculine thing. And for whatever reason, a lot of people in the religious church world, it's a lot of effeminate soy men. So they have a hard time with people that are aggressive, and they're very emotional. They're not good at debating. They're not objective. They can't, handle aggression very well. So they wilt very easily. And that's where we're at. That's why I think, Voice of Reason, Roots of Orthodoxy, who, by the way, we're vindicated on that. We told all these Orthodox priests, these clerics, stay away from these guys. They're bad news. They thought, oh, you're just a mean ortho, bro. Now you've got those same clerics asking Roots of Orthodoxy to take all those interviews down.
Right.
Because he was totally dishonest. It was all a grift. We said all along it was a grift. It's obvious. And so we're vindicated on that as well. But the only reason I bring them up is that, they're trying to make a comeback now. They're bringing Voice of Sleazing back from retirement. But they won't do formal debates. They want to just have their kind of safe channels where they speak to their audience. So basically, I think that whether it's the Roman Catholic world online or the Protestant world online, their focus is really broad, low information voters, low tier stuff. They're going to focus on the broadest net, and we're going to focus on high tier, serious people, and that's going to give us the win in the long run.
Right. Jim Bob taking shots at you, says Dyer won't mention Pastor Mike's name. Run.
That's
Dyer.
because we all know Pastor Mike is a legal copyright violation infringement of Randy Balls.
Right. So in regards to, the debate world, I think there's real world effects, and that's what seems to be the rise of Islam. That epic city in Texas that there's enough outrage that apparently that's still being debated within Texas politics. But literally a Muslim-only city, they just got approved. The entire community came together in some, I think, suburb around DFW to not allow them to put a mosque in the center of the city. City council votes 7-0 in favor of it. The entire community asked them not to do it, kind of like the data centers, which I'm going to ask you about later. But not that we need to focus on the specifics, but just like what's been going on in Dearborn the last 4 days. There's a couple guys, I did a stream yesterday with Jose that were in Michigan, and was saying how crazy it is that like literal confrontations in the streets. There was I forget, like over 1,000 Muslim men marching, yelling Allah Akbar just 2 days ago
Mm.
because there was like some good old boys in a pickup truck with American flags saying America will never be Muslim, and they took offense to that. So
I didn't even see that. I'm glad you brought it up because my feed has been totally dominated with Candace Andrew debate materials, and then I had the debate with that blacktivist 2 days ago, so I've been kind of immersed in that. But I think this is important because when I went to Dallas for DebateCon 8, I didn't really know what to expect in terms of numbers of people who were coming. But one thing that really shocked me was that Dallas itself, as we were hanging out in the town with Chase and different people, there's Muslims everywhere in Dallas now.
Yeah.
You go to the mall, you see Muslims everywhere. My expectation was we're going to have probably a sizable Islamic audience at DebateCon 8. There were no Muslims there, which surprised me. So no Muslims showed up. So what that tells me is Islam is not winning in the debate realm and on intellectual realm or online. It's just winning in numbers. They're just bringing the people in. So that's, I think, what's happening, not accidentally. As we said, I was kind of off on this 20 years ago. I thought I knew a decent amount about geopolitics, but I didn't realize the way that Islam was being used in this sort of big technocratic geopolitical agenda. Then when I got deep into the Fabian socialists, and you see them saying 100 years ago, we're going to bring Islam into the West as a design long-term destruction, it begins to make sense. And then we see all these rabbis saying, yes, Islam is the broom of Judaism.
Right.
So it all begins to make sense. And, I've been looking back at Kalergi as well. In his book, Practical Idealism, he explains what the purpose of
forbidden topic.
Changing the demographics of Europe is by intentionally is to totally reorient the continents into this future world order. Right. So, and he says to do it by erasing the existing European peoples. Now, technically that's genocide, but if you say it's genocide, you're racist.
Of course.
Right? But
that characterizes
America. Yeah.
What just happened in Ceuta, Spain. Right. Everybody's wondering, well, why did all these thousands of Moroccans, rush the border? Well, turns out, at least alleged, that there's a little Israeli backing. The U.S. immediately gifts Morocco $40 million mysteriously right after that event. And, then you have Ben Gvir and all these representatives in the Israeli government talking about how this is payback. I mean, Yair Netanyahu.
Yeah, they said it was payback.
Yeah. I mean, they're like so explicit. But if you say, oh, wow, it looks like they're viewing this as payback and maybe they helped organize. Oh, my anti-Semite conspiracy theorists. It's like, well, that rabbi, and that rabbi literally just said it.
Well, Moses Hess says in his book that they want to use the Freemasonic lodges to change the entire world, religiously speaking, to a Israeli-centric world order. Here he says that there's plans to infiltrate Masonic lodges. And I'm not saying Masons are good. Masons.
What book is that in?
Oh, this is the classic. Everybody should have this book, Roman Jerusalem by Moses Hess. Moses Hess is the father of utopian socialism. So this was written in 1862, and it's his book saying that basically he's kind of presenting this, what would be the foundation of political Zionism. So it's kind of a Hegelian Spinoza take on what religion is. But he's basically saying that Israel, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, right? I don't know if you have Tel Aviv yet, but Jerusalem will be the center of a future utopian socialist world order. And people will worship sort of Zionism and Judaism in the world order.
Right.
So it's his take on Rome versus Jerusalem. And we heard Netanyahu, of course, saying this recently, right? I don't want to lose to Rome again. We're going to win this battle. So this is just another piece in the puzzle that's very important because he's the father of not just utopian socialism, but also Zionism. So if you want to understand Zionism, you have to read Moses Hess. And on page, it's a very famous book, by the way. Page 170 says, I've already been talking to the Rothschild brothers about establishing a Zionist state. This is 1862. This isn't 1917. It's 1862.
What did you think then about Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump trying to steal that island in Albania? You know what I'm talking about? They were
Alex
borrowing the
mentioned this to me.
Rothschild
Yeah,
yacht.
Alex mentioned this on a show, and I forgot what he said, but it was new to me when he mentioned it. So I don't even know about this.
Okay, so essentially, we don't have to get into it, but Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump claim they were on a friend's yacht, of which they volunteer the fact that it was one of the Rothschilds. And they saw this beautiful island and jumped out of the boat and swam to it and then began walking it and said, "Oh, wow, this would be fantastic." Well, apparently, then they tried to put the Albanian government up to give them, I forget how many millions, if not $1 billion, to buy the island, which is like a nature preservation. They have like all these flamingos and stuff across into my.
Oh, that's why Alex
Albania.
brought up the flamingos, because I have the flamingo, and
Yeah.
he was like, that's because Alex was asking me, he's like, is that because they're against Rothschilds? And I was like, I didn't know what he was talking about. I was
That's
like,
what he's talking about.
yeah, because I was like, well, I've had this flamingo, for like 10 years. So the logo. And I was like, I didn't understand what he's talking about. Now I get it.
Yeah, and the Albanians got so upset and protested so hard, and then actually beat up the Israelis that were already moving onto the island. They had all these trailers, literally broke their windows, barged in, pulled them out of their trailers, fought some of them. That whoever the representative, I don't know what his name is, of Albania, who made this backdoor deal with Kushner, essentially had to rescind on it. So they did not get the island. It's not being built. But it was basically, some billionaire luxury resort, just like they want to do to Gaza. But anyways, it was just interesting because it ties with the Rothschilds, Zionism, and what appears to be going on with. Have you been following what's going on in Patagonia and some of the fires and Malays? The government allowing any land that has been burned to be purchased by foreign entities. Are you been following?
Yeah, Tristan talked about this because he was talking about. He sent me some articles and clips on that was also Israeli interest as well, right?
Yeah. So there was this rumor that Malay, who is, and again, this YouTube channel, I do this for the transcript that YouTube does when it processes. We love Israel. We love Netanyahu. So
yeah, we're pro.
We're just talking about those nasty conspiracy theorists. But they claim that the people living in the Patagonia, especially southern Chile and then Argentina, said that these Israelis were setting the Patagonia on fire. And right at that time, the Argentine parliament passed legislation that if land was burned down, it could then be sold because the part that they purchased was like part of a national forest. Well, then the locals who lived there claimed that all these Israeli tourists kept going there and then setting fires, allowing the fire to burn further and further. And then there was an official purchase of, I forget, like I forget how many thousands of hectares they ended up purchasing. But it sounds like they're building like a Jewish only community there in Patagonia. And so, it leads one to speculate about sort of safe havens around the world for some of these groups of people and finding places to kind of set up shop in case something in the Middle East goes bad. So that's what it kind of looks like on the outside.
Yeah, and I remember too, when they had nabbed Maduro in that extraction operation, within like 2 days, there was articles saying that the oil would now be moved to Israel. Israel was now getting that oil. So,
Yep.
yeah, none of that surprises me. And in fact, if you go back to, when we were talking about Islam and British intelligence, when we did that stream, we talked about some of these figures that were very instrumental at the time of Balfour Declaration and sort of debating about what to do. There was actually discussions of having a Jewish homeland, I want to say in Peru or Argentina, as well as Austria, New Zealand, and Australia.
Right.
And they decided on Middle East because obviously that made the most sense for, Zionism and whatnot. But yeah, they actually discussed even places in Latin and South America. So yeah, I'm not surprised that because a lot of this has to do with resources and resource control. I think everybody understands that now with like Strait of Hormuz. Obviously that massively affects oil. But Israel did the exact same thing that you're describing here through their Rothschild agent, Disraeli, because Disraeli was the prime minister, first Jewish prime minister in England. And his role was essentially to get the Suez Canal for Queen Victoria, which he was successful in doing because, as I understand, there was an Egyptian Shia guy, a very wealthy guy that owned and had the land, but he was in debt. And so Rothschilds basically fronted several millions of pounds to purchase Suez Canal for Queen Victoria because she said no Middle Eastern person will serve in upper or lower house under my government. And then they said, well, what if we get you Suez Canal? Well, then suddenly she says, okay, you can be a lord in the upper house. And so then you get the first British upper house lord. This is all in the biography, by the way. This isn't a conspiracy theory. And the other, as I mentioned on the fourth hour today too, Disraeli wrote a book called Coningsby, which is about his handler, his Rothschild handler, basically doing all of these machinations from behind the scenes. And it's funny because the exact same model happens with Colonel Edwin Mandell House to Woodrow Wilson, where he writes a book called Philip Drew Administrator about how he handles. And Edwin Mandell House was also working for the banking interests. So you see this pattern of resource control through basically versions of espionage. And that was what was so crazy about going into these Rothschild biographies. I'm not trying to transition into that because it's very relevant to what you're saying about resource control. Because we saw the same thing with Epstein emails, is that they're really just trying to get ahead of the game with resource control and allocation and movements of money based on conflict zones. And that's majority of what they're up to with a lot of this stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that would include Argentina and the stuff you're talking about.
Right. Well, and then Argentina is unique. Like during the World Cup, so many people were rooting against Argentina because they are like an explicitly Zionist nation. And let's say sentiments from those anti-Semite, Hispanic, Latino nations down there seems to be in opposition to Israel. So thank God for Argentina. And it just so happens, this legislation's passed. Now they own a bunch of property in the Patagonia where they can build up their own settlement. So, glory to God for that, of course. But you mentioned England. It's like, my God, how far has England fell from not wanting any Middle Eastern person to serve in their government to becoming the little Pakistan, essentially?
Well, again, it's funny too, because they, had these very strict policies, like most European countries did. And then when you have the rise of these other groups into, banking and whatnot, what you end up getting is then, okay, now it's time for Fabian socialism and infinity Islam in your country explicitly.
Right.
So again, it's like, it's not an accident that those two things go together.
No. What are your thoughts on some of basically the Trump administration? Because I'm with you on, again, the handling of the Epstein files. Total disaster by the Trump administration. And it kind of revealed their cards a little bit. But there was so much optimism in the 2024 election. He gets elected, the Butler assassination attempt, all this stuff. He had all the motion, as the kids say, the cultural motion and momentum. And then within the first week of the administration, and this is where I figured, oh gosh, I think we're going to be getting something very different, is he signs the operation. Oh my gosh. I'm blanking on it. The one we did a stream on it. It was on the remote viewing, Stargate. So Operation Stargate by the CIA.
Oh, you mean his plan for
and then
allocating money
Operation Stargate to win the AI race.
Yeah, for
So
AI.
that was, Larry Ellison, Sam Altman. There was some Chinese or Japanese billionaire, I forget, who was also invested. But we immediately see within the first week of Trump taking office in the second administration is what seems to be some type of an alliance with, essentially the old money, GOP, Israel lobby, big pharma, banker elite with the tech elite. And you've seen, Elon Musk was very involved at first, Peter Thiel, all these different people. And then JD Vance is, kind of the protege of Thiel himself. So I'm curious in general, what are your thoughts about the Trump administration and Trump's approval rate? I think right now, last I saw, was like 30%. So the lowest in both terms is his approval rate right now.
Yeah, I think we had that period of where it looked like good things were occurring, and they were pretty consistently occurring. What Doge was doing was it's in itself a good thing. It may not have been perfect, but yeah, I mean, getting rid of these NGOs and fronts and sort of foundation operations in other countries that were major beachheads for CIA type operations in other countries. That was good to undo a lot of that stuff. But the thing with the way the system is set up with all these think tanks, NGOs, foundations, and fronts is that there's a million heads of the Hydra. So you can cut off one head, and it's like, well, there's all these other things, right? So when are we going to get rid of the Carnegie Endowment? When are we getting rid of the Soros Foundation? When are we getting rid of the Rockefeller Foundation? When are we getting rid of all these other entities as well?
Right.
So you can cut one head off of it, and then another one just pops back up. So, but I mean, it's still good that they were doing that. But and then I thought we had some glimmers of positivity with Trump being open initially to what he was calling. I was at the Bitcoin conference when he was pushing the Bitcoin strategic reserve,
right? Which
and
I was
that
in favor
quickly
of that.
turned
I thought that was a good idea.
Well, it is, but it quickly turned into meme coins, Trump coin, and
he rug pulled the own base with Melania and Trump coin,
and then it turned into stable coins, and stable coins are not Bitcoin. Which is not to say that there couldn't be a role for stable coins. They do play a role, but they're also another vector by which the state can essentially come up with a digital dollar that has all the same problems of the existing fiat currency that we've outlined. It could potentially be a form of a CBDC,
right?
Depending upon what they do. There's also some interesting theories that the stablecoin legislation, which is really what the Clarity Act is about. I mean, the Clarity Act overall will be positive for Bitcoin, but there's also the potentiality of it being a kind of a underhanded sort of backdoor vector for using stable coins as a potential Fed coin to then have infinity money printing even easier than the existing infinity money printing that we already have with the fiat dollar. So they could then use stable coins as a CBDC. They could be tracked, could be traced, they could shut your wallet down, et cetera. All these things are potentialities with basically just an E version of the dollar, which is not even addressing all the problems that we already have. But there were some interesting theories going around that Trump or the administration or the U.S. government might also offload U.S. debt
Right. That's what
to all the countries that would then be holding Fed coin.
Right.
And then Fed coin could be worthless. So, there's a lot of ways they could take that scammery or schemery or whatever they're trying to do. I don't know because I'm not involved in I don't push a lot of those things. I mainly just focus on Bitcoin. But
right.
But yeah, I think that's a potential concern for Fed coin.
Yeah. Well, in regards to the lowering, I mean, we just passed 40 trillion national debt. And I saw at the beginning, again, when Trump first took off, his second term, that the U.S. was one of the largest importers of gold. And behind the scene, I don't know if you've heard this, that there's, geopolitically, there's a war that's unspoken. It's really about the acquirement of gold, especially in face of BRICS. And so China and Russia have been eagerly collecting gold in their reserves. In the U.S., Fort Knox, we were supposed to see what was inside Fort Knox. Nothing came of that. But the U.S., we saw all this gold flooding from London into the U.S., and there was rumors that Trump was going to try to leverage our gold reserve to offset some of the debt. But I just saw 2 days ago, or within the last 2 days, Trump has ordered all of Venezuela's gold in London to be taken by the U.S. I forget how many pounds of gold that we just essentially stole from them.
Yeah, I mean, people were. I remember at the time of the Venezuela operation with Maduro, that they were then saying that could also be just Trump appropriating resources because of U.S. debt, because the U.S. debt is so problematic that maybe he's just trying to take shit. You know what I mean? So I'm not surprised with the gold, although given the nature of the debt, it really seems like, as many people have been pointing out, like you can't actually pay that back. It's almost impossible.
Yeah, $40
So
trillion dollars.
yeah, like so basically, they're as everybody says, rearranging deck chairs on the
Right.
Titanic. But you could kick the can down the road by, taking a bunch of gold or oil from somewhere, reappropriating resources. I'm not sure exactly, but one thing I can tell you is that I do think that the global economic order is just scams within scams. It's like onion rings of scams. So I don't even understand it all myself, but yeah, he could be just sort of appropriating and taking resources to kick the can down the road because he's going to be gone in 2 years. He doesn't care. So if he can just if he can prop things up a little bit, kick the can down the road. I think the presidents do that. They kind of kick the can down the road a little bit. But again, we were initially promised a Bitcoin strategic reserve, which turned into all this other stuff. But it was interesting that yesterday or the day before, he came back with Bitcoin strategic reserve again. So maybe we will see something like that. I'm not sure, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, God willing, we do. And I'm curious what your thoughts are in general on the Iran war, because that seemed like a totally unnecessary conflict that exacerbated America's problems. So, to your point, if his goal is to kick the can down the road, which it seemed to be, the first year they had in 2025, June 2025 was the 3-day missile attack on Iran, and then it was over. It was done. We've defeated their nuclear program. And obviously, there's advocates amongst the certain lobbyist groups and certain power structures in the U.S. to advance war with Iran. But we depleted our ammunitions. We elevated oil prices globally. We then used our own oil reserves, which puts the U.S. not in a great spot. And then people have been dumping U.S. bonds. I know Japan, South Korea, some of these allies of ours. So the bond market's not in a great shape. And it seems like Trump, again, it's hard to know what exactly is going on, whether he's totally there or not, or who's actually the mastermind. He's kind of the PR agent to try to put out narratives every day to keep the market stable. But the Iran war was totally unnecessary and has only exacerbated and demonstrated a military weakness of the U.S. So if we thought we were going to scare Russia because our sanctions in 2022 didn't work, we did a piss poor job of that, because now China and Russia are more emboldened than ever to see that we've moved so many Patriots, THAAD missile systems in the Middle East. He says that they wanted the treaty, they wanted the peace offering, but it's really us, and we don't even have the missiles. And we were spending like $1.4 billion a day during that 40-day window where we were just launching missiles. And it's like, so anyways, with all that being said, I could ramble. What are your thoughts, again, big picture, about the Iran war and how this fits in with everything?
Yeah, I mean, this was something that many intelligent people, including the Pentagon, warned Trump about. Lord Voldemort, Tucker, they all kept warning him not to do this, and that it would be a disaster. It would not be done in a few days or a few weeks, and then here we are, right? So it's sort of like I've been saying, like 2 weeks to flatten the Tehran, right? Just like 2 weeks to flatten the curve turned into 2 years, right? Well, we'll be out of Iran in 2 weeks. That's turned into protracted conflict, which is exactly what everybody said. And that shows, I think, that we're doing the bidding of other interests. There's no
to say the least. Because typically when you analyze these geopolitical events, it's no matter what the rhetoric is who benefits. And it just seems like time after time again, all of our adventures in the Middle East, there's one particular group that seems to benefit over and over and over again. So I think that's pretty much clear. And it brings me to another question that I'm curious what you've noticed. And I wrote down the Overton window shift. So it felt like it started to begin when Elon bought Twitter. And I argued from the beginning that Elon was not here to give you free speech, but to do data harvesting. I mean, if you're going to build an AI system and you need data and people's inputs, what would be better than buying a social media company, which is what Grok and Tesla AI have been doing. And I connect this back to the Iran war because of Israel. And it seems like the Overton window online, at least on X, but generally speaking, even on YouTube, it seems like they've kind of loosened some of the parameters, although there's still a bunch of shadow banning going on in regards to criticism of Israel. Now, is this a temporary thing to get us all to hang ourselves? Probably so. I suspect I've already done that online. But what are your thoughts on the Overton window shift, or do you think there has been one?
Well, there's definitely been a lot of yapping on the internet, and that has definitely awakened a lot of internet users. How much that translates into real world change is a different question. I'm not sure. It's definitely popular to talk about these things, and it's obviously the window has moved, as you said, way more than it was in 2015. You get immediately banned talking about any of this stuff. So
Right.
as to the long-term designs, it's hard to say. They could be using that to figure out who the future problem people are. It's very possible, but also at the same time, I mean, Israel really is, the least popular country. The whole world is kind of,
Yeah.
Sees them as kind of genocidal psychos. So I'm not sure how they're going to benefit from that unless they just don't care. But also I think it's important to understand that there might be multiple motivations for why people or companies do stuff. So I don't know what, I mean, I'm sure Tesla and SpaceX and all these things, I'm sure they want to corner the market for future AI stuff. I don't know enough about that from a business perspective as to how that will play out. But I mean, there's other elements that I think a lot of people don't even know about, like SpaceX and Tesla together is like one of the top holders of Bitcoin, right? So in other words, I think they're in the top, if you put them together, they're in the top 5 or 10. And so if Bitcoin continues to do what it's designed to do, I mean, that could make them one of the wealthiest. I mean, I think they already are, obviously,
They
like
already
mega
are,
wealthy.
yeah.
But I mean, if Bitcoin becomes what it's intended to be, they would be like magnitudes even more wealthy. So I'm saying they could have an angle of cornering that type of a market. They could have an angle of cornering and doing AI, being the leader in that.
I think Tesla Robotics, last I looked, they were in like the top 3, competing with the Chinese, the Japanese, and really those are the
In robotics.
leaders in robotics right now, is the Chinese
Yeah.
and the Japanese. But Tesla Robotics, in regards to the American companies, was like the pioneer so far. So they're kind of leading. And I saw Elon talk about how the Tesla humanoid robots, he's going to send them to Mars to build our moon base. I mean, send them to the moon to build our moon base. Again, total out of science fiction. But I mentioned to you backstage. Did you see the new 50-foot statue of Prometheus that Elon is currently being built right here at the SpaceX Center there in Texas, and it's to signify human progress. Prometheus to symbolize human progress. I was curious what your thoughts are about that.
I mean, I guess it's fitting because
It is, isn't it?
the whole Silicon Valley tech domain is really about, geared towards taking that godlike technology and appropriating it for humanity, but actually for the technocrats. So yeah, I think it's not accidental. I think we've all kind of speculated and wondered what Elon's personal views might be. It's hard to know exactly with a lot of these high-powered people, because sometimes they'll say, if you remember, it was only a few months ago, he was saying, I like Jesus now, I believe in Jesus. Remember that? So it's hard to know what they believe for real. Or
well, and in 2022, remember he went to the Heidi Klum Halloween party and dressed as the devil's advocate. which was completely Luciferian satanic symbolism. I did a video 4 years ago, like when he was getting ready to buy Twitter, saying Elon Musk is not your friend. That was the title of the stream, and kind of
Yeah.
went through his life, and then demonstrated all these times in which he gaslights, where he's on both sides of the issue, where he was critical of trans because of his daughter, son. I don't even know how you describe it, but then was talking about inclusivity. This was back when he was still in California. He was against communism, but then he had a child with Grimes, and she literally the day he says he's against communism does like a photo shoot with the Communist Manifesto. And you can go through.
Even now, she claims she believes in Jesus. So I don't know.
Exactly, but she also was like openly a transhumanist, talking about the AI God. And so it's so funny how they go back and forth on these issues. And I think Elon in particular is a sort of ultimate gaslighter, and that he, he has his own agenda, and he's going to play the sides as he will to benefit himself. And I think right now, and it's not that he can say stuff that we don't disagree with. He absolutely says a lot of things we agree with, but I think his long-term agenda is, some people say he's totally driven by this vision of Mars, and maybe so. I don't even know if it's possible to travel there. But it just feels like he is a ultimate manipulator of people's perceptions about him and where he fits on any type of intellectual spectrum or political spectrum.
Well, one thing that's important to do is to look at what people do as opposed to what they say, especially with politicians and high profile people, because a lot of people get trapped and stuck in just following rhetoric. And you got to look at what people do. For example, as I mentioned, let's say back with Bitcoin, Elon's had a very interesting track record with crypto, because for a long time, well, initially he was like super pro Bitcoin. You go back to like 2019, 2020. Oh, we're full on with this. We're going to load up on this. And he did. They loaded up on significant amounts, even back then when it was much cheaper. And then it was, well, I'm going to actually essentially align myself with Doge. I like meme coins. Doge is the most famous, oldest meme coin that we know of. So I'm going to make this kind of there was speculation that it would be the currency of X. And, you would have to send people Dogecoin or whatever. And then I guess for whatever reasons that kind of got forgotten or dropped, or they decided it wasn't really feasible. And then he would also consistently sort of talk like, oh, Bitcoin is a waste of time. It's just too energy inefficient, all this kind of FUD that he would talk about. But Tesla and SpaceX are together one of the top 5 holders of Bitcoin. Like they're in the top 5 or 10 of together holding like massive amounts of Bitcoin. So it's like not everybody's doing what they're publicly yapping about. You see what I'm saying?
Right. No.
So
and I think
if he really thought that, why do they have so much Bitcoin? And they probably are massively in profit because people are not thinking about a lot of these things rationally or logically with from an educated standpoint. I mean, that's something I've really been frustrated with in terms of like Bitcoin. I don't mean to go back to this, but it is all over the news because we had this massive, in the last 4 or 5 days, we've seen Bitcoin go up 25%. And it was like the biggest short squeeze ever yesterday in history, where it went up to, I think we're at like 77 or 78, some massive 78.5, 78.4.
Oh, wow.
Which is huge because, we were 62 a few days ago. So for an asset that's that large, that big of a jump, that large in a couple of days is huge. And there was speculation about, as you mentioned, bonds. There were announcements about bonds that affected this. There was the announcement of Clarity Act, Trump meeting with crypto people again, saying that we're going to eventually get a Clarity Act. And then Trump mentioning again the Bitcoin strategic reserve. So I think all of this was an interesting storm. And then we had the announcement of more quantitative easing, money printing. Right. So this was a perfect storm all at once for this massive, almost God candle, as they call it in Bitcoin. I'm happy. Like,
right. I'm a holder of Bitcoin. I have no intention of selling. I don't do the day-to-day crypto stuff that some of the guys do. I think in 2020, 2021, I was way more active on like day-to-day trading, or, oh my God, there's this new meme coin, better hop on it while it jumps up, and then, purchase a Bitcoin with
That's
it.
all distraction and gambling.
And I just gave up on when the market dropped, was at 2021, 2022 from the high during the COVID era. I just put it all into Bitcoin, put it in an account, and just, I don't plan on touching it. So
That's
I'm just a long-term holder at this
I
point.
think DCA, for people that are not into it, like dollar cost average is what people recommend. But I'm a full believer, so like, we pretty much translate everything, or we alchemically transmute everything into Bitcoin. That's where I live. So, in fact, I'm even trying to sell one of the properties to get more. But I mean, I made more money, and I don't mean this in a braggy way, just like this is how committed we are. Like in 4 days, I made equal to or more than I make in half a year.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's why people like Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah. I need to get more to invest, because I am a believer in long-term um, Bitcoin as what it's promised to be as digital gold. My only worry in regards to cryptocurrencies is like digital IDs and stuff to access the internet, or more and more layers of the technocratic system to engage in it at some level. And that brings me to another topic. I'm curious of
Well,
what
real
your thoughts
briefly,
are.
I will point out
Yeah,
that
go ahead. Feel free to
on that
respond to
very
anything.
point, which is a valid concern, Jack Dorsey, and people have criticism of Jack, but he is a big Bitcoin supremacist guy. Last year, he invented the first app where you can not just message people, but also you can transact Bitcoin through Bluetooth.
Oh,
Yeah. So in other words, if the internet
I
went
remember
out, you
reading
could still,
about that. I never
yeah,
looked into it.
if the internet went out, there is now the ability to transact Bitcoin even without the internet.
Oh, that's huge.
Mhm.
That's huge. I never looked into that. I do remember something about
Mhm.
Dorsey and Bluetooth, but now that makes sense. But I'm legitimately curious though about your thoughts on one of the hottest political issues right now is data centers. I
Mhm.
just saw a Fox News hit today of trying to make it sound like anybody who's against data centers is one of these blue-haired leftists. Like they're just crazy, and we got to have data centers to compete with China. And this was some type of Trump representative on Fox News, sitting down with the
Mhm.
Fox and Friends or whatever. But it's so interesting to see how this issue has now become a huge wedge issue where Josh Shapiro, the Jewish governor of Pennsylvania, he okayed some legislation to bring in so many data centers in Pennsylvania. People got upset, and then he rescinded that. And now his platform is that the Democrats are against data centers to save, the environment in America. But it correlates with everything that's been going on with Palantir, really for the last decade, and also these flock cameras. I don't know if you've been following the flock camera
Mhm.
phenomenon. What are your thoughts on all of that stuff together? Because to me, they go together. Data centers, Palantir, flock cameras, the sort of digital surveillance that we're all living under.
Yeah, I think people are getting distracted by focusing on this or that company, and it's all essentially going into the same, overall technocratic power structure. And just like the Hydra is like, okay, so if we get rid of flock, I'm not saying we shouldn't get rid of
Right.
flock cameras, but if we did, it's like, well, there's all these other brands and things that do the
Right.
same stuff.
Right.
And I mean, you go back to WikiLeaks and Snowden, this was all the stuff that was coming out 15, 20 years
Right.
ago.
Yeah, that's like
So
15 years ago, 20 years ago.
none of this is new. Like if you're in the conspiracy world, this is like old hat, dude. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
you didn't know this. I mean, but I think, Peter Thiel talked about in his book Zero to One that it was all really developed for the NSA anyway, like all
Right.
that stuff. So I mean, how come? And you remember everybody was talking about the NSA after Snowden and Prism and all those different programs, and now that is all I think privatized. So it does make sense to talk about. But again, it's like that's all Hall of Mirrors because it's all the same, right?
Right.
Like it's the NSA and it's all these things like are the things that we should look into. So that's one side of this, which is that everyone in the conspiracy world kind of already knows all this, and we've been warning for a long time that there would be a loss of, personal privacy and sovereignty and all that. A lot of people are just not figuring this out because they're new to conspiracy stuff through Queen Quandus or whatever is waking them up. But then at the same time, we've got like, what are the data centers all about? I assume that it is about total information awareness and tracking and tracing and controlling.
Right.
We may not be at that stage yet, but going back again to things like Klaus's book in his 2018 book, he actually explains that the purpose of all of this is an Internet of Things and Skynet. That's the whole last third of the book. So, I mean, that's the overall plan. And the people are forgetting that big picture. As you said, that's why we're doing this big picture stuff. And I don't know the specifics of everything as to what the purpose of all the data centers are. I mean, I know Trump is saying that, well, we want to be the lead in this industry and that kind of stuff. And I'm sure there's a level of truth to that, but
they're vowing to double them. So there's apparently 4,000 in the U.S. The goal before the next 2 years is that at least 4,000 more permits will be issued for them to build more. So the goal is over 8,000 data centers in the U.S. by the end of the Trump administration.
But I mean, I'm like, okay, what exactly? There's layers to this shit. There are levels to this shit, dog. Okay, so on one level, it's like, what is this actually doing? Because it's just a glorified search engine. Okay.
Right.
Do we really need like all of this for glorified search engine? I don't. So there's got to be perhaps other things going on. Oh, well, there's this market race to, okay, I get that. Maybe there's some level to which they're trying to corner this market. And then I'm like, but I know they haven't given up the desire for a total, eugenics based, dysgenics based tracking and control grid. That didn't just go away because, Klaus isn't at the head of the World Economic Forum anymore. Right? Like the people come and go, the plan stays the same. So I would assume that it's absolutely still all about, going back to, Admiral Poindexter and his plan after the Big 9 event for total information awareness, which is basically all information integrated into a single sort of vantage point that is predictive algorithmic tracking and tracing. So it's not just knowing everything that people are up to. It's also, what are they likely going to do? Because if you know people's prediction, if you know a predictive actuary of what they're likely to do, well, with 80% accuracy, this guy will, move his money here. This person, Iran will attack here. That's what, it's sort of a crystal ball type of a game, I would guess. And if you watch the recent Tom Cruise Mission Impossible, the latest, the finality of it is all about this godlike AI,
right?
It essentially does real-time, real-world analysis and gives you like, with 87% accuracy, this train will collide here at this location. And, so that would give you, you'd be like Biff Tannen in Back to the Future 2 with that almanac. Like you'd be making all kinds of money.
No, and to your point, I mean, Palantir is explicit that that's what it is. It's about, their promise to the public is that we'll be able to predict crime before it happens.
Pre-crime. Yeah, we were writing articles about pre-crime 15 years ago, 12 years ago for 21st Century Wire. It's in my first or second book. Yep.
Yeah. And so to your point about Flock or being really upset with that specific company, I think what's occurred in Wisconsin and Virginia should highlight that this is not a for-profit company. This is some type of cutout for the intelligence agencies, when in both Wisconsin and Virginia, counties have voted to shut down the Flock camera system. And yet the Flock camera system doesn't shut down. And then they say, oh, well, you don't even have to pay for it. We'll just leave it up for free. And they're like, no, we still want it down. And then they're like, well, actually, the police come out, well, which get incentives. Well, we're using it at solving crime. It's like, wait, so in 2 instances in the US within the last 2 months, counties have voted to shut them down and they're not shut down. So who's really in control here, and what's really going on behind it? And to your point,
that recent movie, by the way, it makes me think of that movie, the new the Chris Pratt sci-fi tech movie that came out called Mercy. Did you see that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because in that one, they flipped the script and it ends up being where the AI is actually good and helping Chris Pratt, figure out who the real terrorists are. Because initially, when you're watching it, and I'm spoiling it, you think the AI is,
Right.
bad and it's a dystopia. But
Yeah,
then
like
it
an evil
flips and it's like,
judge.
no, it's actually the AI is going to help us solve the crimes and
Yeah,
find the
it's like
terrorists.
Spielberg's Disclosure Day. No, the aliens are actually
They're the saviors.
savior. They're your demigod.
Yep.
So it's the same propaganda. But regarding Palantir, and as you said, this sort of pre-crime, predictive crime marketing scheme that they have, one of the things that I think has worried a lot of people about JD Vance, and he's kind of an interesting character because he really seems to have his thumb on the pulse of like the younger culture on X. So I've speculated, how Catholic is he? I'm not so sure. I mean, how Catholic can you be when you marry a Hindu and all your kids go to a Hindu temple? I don't know. And I'm not trying to judge him, but strange, interesting, and maybe he's had his conversion. But the fact that he works for Peter Thiel, he does that hillbilly eulogy for his great, the book about his life and his grandma, and then that gets turned to a Netflix movie right before he runs as a Republican, gets into Congress, and then within 2 years he's elevated to vice president. And I don't know if you saw on the Theo Vaughn, this was probably a year ago that JD Vance was on there, and Theo Vaughn's talking about how he's kind of upset and worried about Palantir and this technocracy. And he's like, well, we're going to be able to track every illegal. So if you're against illegal immigration, which obviously people are, well, then you should support Palantir because we can then monitor where they're at and what their purchases are. And so it seems like Vance is using conservative ideals and then package them in the technocratic frame that, oh, well, you should support this if you want, no border crossings, because then we can have AI monitor everything. If you don't want illegals, if you don't want crime in your city. And so I lead that into getting your thoughts on JD Vance. And, there is this discussion right now between who's going to be the follow-up to Trump. Is it JD Vance or is it Marco Rubio? And in those two guys, again, how much of tension there is between them, who really knows? But it is interesting how they've taken opposite stances on the Iran war, on a bunch of different issues. It's like you have Rubio and Vance. They work together constantly, but then they publicly take different stances. And it makes you think, are they just they're just the powers that be are testing these guys to see which one the American public will support? Is JD Vance kind of a facade personality and figure? What are your thoughts on that, big picture wise?
I haven't really kept up with or followed Vance too closely. I don't know a whole lot about him, but I'm kind of default going to be on the side of the conspiracy stuff typically. So I would be on the Theo Vaughn side of that question. So I would be like, no, I don't know if I trust any of this stuff. It's all kind of shady and sus to me. But I've heard things about his religious convictions, and I have no idea how serious he is about it.
Right.
So it's hard to say what's really going on, because I think a lot of times, I think everybody's just sort of tired of politicians.
Yeah.
And I know that's kind of cliche, but the problem with that is that's going to be a selling point for AI. They're going to try to push.
True.
And we already saw that with Klaus, right? Klaus
True.
was even saying a long time ago,
Yeah, great point.
Politicians, they fail at the jobs. That's why we need the technocracy. We need the computer, because the idea is, oh, well, a computer will be fair. No,
right.
Well, you can program a computer to not be fair. So what are you talking about?
Right. Yeah. Ask ChatGPT if white lives matters.
Exactly. Like, no, it's going to be objective because it's a computer. It's based on math. Yeah, but you can program it to lie, dummy. So, but I think a lot of people, as they get acclimated to AI, as is happening with Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they're going to default to it like it's some sort of God oracle. You covered that with, Noah Yuval Harari and all his, dataism and all that stuff, and how it's going to be an oracle, right? They're going to be this sort of avatars and these sort of, quasi-divine sort of bots walking around that you'll ask all your questions to, and you'll treat it like it's some sort of a religious entity. And I think that the younger generations are being already trained to do that and accept that. And that's everywhere in all kinds of dystopian AI stuff. Look at THX 1138. I mean,
Yep.
on this very point, I keep thinking of movies just because they're probably in my head. Did you ever see, Donnie Darko, right?
Yes.
Have you ever seen any of Richard Kelly's other films?
I have not.
So he made this follow-up to Donnie Darko, which didn't do very well, but it's a very interesting movie. And of course, being a sort of director, Hollywood person, obviously Richard Kelly is going to be on the left, but he made this movie called Southland Tales, and it's very bizarre, but also in certain ways kind of predictive, because it's a near future dystopia where LA is basically overrun and you've got this technocratic sort of border control, but they have these weird neocons that are, it's like, there's like, I forget who plays it might be Sigourney Weaver or somebody, but there's like this Trumpy, it's like a woman Trump or something that's like this goofy neocon technocrat type person that's controlling the border. And it gets all, it goes off into
2006 has
crazy.
Dwayne Johnson in it and Justin
It
Timberlake.
has The Rock in it. Yeah, it's got Timberlake in it. Timberlake's only in it for a little bit, but he has a pretty funny role there. It is, I think it's worth watching just because it's a really bizarre, weird film. But I don't know what the hell it means. It's super crazy. But anyway, I'm just pointing out that it reminds me of, like, you have in 80s and 90s movies and even 2000s era movies, this kind of weird portrayals of what a future neocon, almost sort of Trumpian dynasty would be like. If you remember in, like I said, in Back to the Future 2, if you remember, when he goes into that alternate timeline, I can't remember Biff as president, but Biff basically has this giant Trump tower. It even looks like Trump on the logo. And he's basically running, Spring Valley or wherever they live, like it's Trump. And if you watch Gremlins 2, okay,
I wasn't expecting to go to Gremlins.
Gremlins 2 takes place in Clamp Towers, which Clamp is Trump.
Oh,
it's Trump Towers. Yeah.
Oh,
and it's
interesting.
basically the tower, the whole,
Yeah.
the building is the sort of microcosm for America. And so again, really kind of weird, sort of prophetic, whether they knew, I don't know, but there's all these, examples, I think, of this weird technocratic neocon future order that we might be involved in. So I think that, long story short, there's no real battle between a technocrat and a neocon. They're all, at the end of the day, on the same, the same side.
Do you think there is any power struggle among some of the elites right now? Because, you're saying ultimately they're on the same side, and I would agree. And
yeah, they might be vying for control of the New World Order. So you could put it that way.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
They might be vying for who's going to manage and run the New World Order.
Yes, and that's my point is ultimately where they're going, both hands are necessary to get the job accomplished. But Whitney Webb has talked a lot about, again, these power factions and especially the tech elite, the PayPal mafia, and these being sort of their own, a rising significant power structure in American politics. And some of the speculation is that, the Israel lobby, the big pharma lobby, the big power players, the neoconservatives, and then the tech elite have essentially allied together. And even the conspiracy theory that they're sort of warring against each other at times is hard for me to even understand, because if you look at Musk or Thiel or Mark Andreessen or Sam Altman, whoever it may be, they all seem to be very much Zionist. So at an ideological level, there doesn't seem to be that much conflict between the movements, but I could certainly see at a who controls the power structure level that there would be tensions. And there's been speculation that Trump's riff with Europe, with some of the European powers that be, and I'm curious what your thoughts are. Do you see amongst the global elite, do you see any type of infighting, or maybe that characterizes some of the tensions between the EU and Trump, or Is it just Trump's trying to get them to pay more, and they want to go to? They're dead set on going to war against Putin. It seems like.
Yeah, I think it's just rival factions within an overall power structure with the same end goals. So you had, for example, if you go back 20, 30, 40 years, you could have neocons versus sort of the Obama type people. But they have the same end goals. It's just really different game plans and strategies as to how to get to that end goal. So I think definitely we saw at Bilderberg some years back, I want to say 2015, 2016, because I was writing articles about it. Bilderberg kind of handed things over to the technocrats because they were kind of the emerging power structure that would most likely be running the New World Order. And we already had Bilderberg technocrats prior to that projecting that by the time we got to the 2010s, 2030s, 2020s, 2030s, that it would be the technocrats running things. So I think that they are beginning to understand that the legacy media, legacy banking is going away. I'm still not exactly sure what AI is supposed to do. My assumption would be that it's going to just be tracking and tracing, would be my guess. And so it's all going to be integrated. And I think that boomers are dying out. And so whatever neoconservatism was, it's going to have to, because it was mainly boomers, that's going to have to morph into something new. Maybe Vance represents the face of whatever that's going to morph into, because they have to attract younger audience, because boomers are not going to be around for 10 years, for about 10 more years. So they've got to figure out how to bring people onto their side. And it's very difficult to get anybody on your side when you're just sort of packaging stuff that everyone's already moved past. So my guess would just simply be that there are some oligarchs amongst the technocrats that are vying for dominance. I don't think the EU is really itself that powerful. I think the entire structure was set up by the U.S. It relies on the U.S. It can't really oppose the U.S. It's just a more advanced kind of socialism beyond where the U.S. presently is, and so really, it's not significant, I don't think, because if you're Spain and you disagree, even if you're communist, I mean, they can just let a zillion Muslims in. So it's like,
or
there's
in
not
Romania, you can elect your president, and the EU says, "Oh no, sorry, that was Russia election interference. He's going to jail, and you guys need to vote again," which
And it's the same.
literally is what they did.
They had the same situation in Armenia too, where now Armenia is being taken over by this globalist person, EU person. So
Oh, I haven't even followed that one.
yeah, so I mean, it's just it's a challenge anywhere you go with, like, how do you compete with the technocracy? You almost have to have some form of technocracy to compete with it.
Right.
I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying, like,
No.
that's where we're at.
And that's certainly how the global elite look at it. I mean,
Yep.
look at some of the conflicts between China and the U.S. right now.
Exactly.
It's the same thing.
Good example. Exactly. A perfect example.
Hey, did you see this? I saw this going around the internet today, and it's going to lead into me getting your thoughts on the Russia-Ukraine war and where that's at. But Patriarch Bartholomew to mark Ukraine's Independence Day with divine liturgy, recognizing the OCU as opposed to the UOC. I was wondering if you feel comfortable. I know we're talking about hierarchs here, and certainly we don't believe they're infallible. We can criticize them.
Why would I not be comfortable? I've been calling it out for a decade.
I don't know. But what are your thoughts? Because Patriarch Bartholomew, I mean, let's face it, the false Ukrainian jurisdiction, they didn't go through the right procedures to attain autocephalous.
Well, he even said before all this that he didn't recognize that guy.
He didn't recognize what?
Domingo and all that.
Oh.
So he thought he was not even a priest prior to all this, Bartholomew.
Wow.
But then once the State Department said, no, you're going to recognize this. Okay. They're a church. Right. So, I mean, it's obvious. Like,
and there's that article I covered at the CIA man's in Constantinople, which goes all the way back 2 generations. looking at the intelligence infiltration, especially during World War II, but then afterwards in Constantinople and the
Yeah,
EP.
the OSS and the CIA already had Constantinople the whole time. So that's why you got to look at the Matrokin archives for how Russia, or how the NKVD, I should say, how they handled the Moscow Patriarchate, because this gets overblown, especially the people who try to argue that everybody in Orthodoxy is part of KGB, everybody's under Putin. I went
got
in.
accused of that. I'm apparently a Mason and a KGB asset. Somehow.
We all get accused of that every day. So if you go to my channel, I did a breakdown of the most relevant chapter within the Matrokin Archives book, which is about what exactly we think, and they've been declassified.
Well,
the Soviet archives are basically open now, but this was the it's called Liberalism, CIA, KGB, Vatican Mafia, and the World Council of Churches, and this was a deep dive on some of the Soviet archives in terms of like what their strategy was throughout the Cold War, particularly the NKVD during the Stalin and drop-off periods for managing and handling the compromised bishops. So this is important because it. What?
Is that laser-eyed Cholo Dyer right there? You look like a Cholo.
I don't know.
That's hilarious.
That's where we need to be going.
Is that one of your cringecore songs?
What? I don't know what it is. What are you talking about?
Can you not see the screen? Your background right here.
Oh, that was me playing at the beginning of a stream, a song somebody made. Yeah, there's a guy on Milk Dollar Pure on X. He made that song.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I just shared that link for anybody who wants to listen to that stream. I just shared it in the chat.
Yeah, so basically, again, like the NKVD wanted to focus on using and co-opting ecumenism. They thought the World Council of Churches could be a venue by which Soviet ideology could kind of be pushed as a form of soft power. So just like the U.S. dominates in soft power through Hollywood or NGOs or whatever, the Soviets also wanted their own form of soft power, and they thought that they could co-opt the World Council of Churches with that. That's why there were many NKVD, KGB people at the World Council of Churches. But guess what? There was also a bunch of CIA and British intelligence people at the World Council of Churches. And ultimately, in the long run, the West really dominated the World Council of Churches. It was already a Rockefeller-funded entity. Right. So all of this just to say that during the Cold War, the NKVD was successful basically in co-opting the main patriarchates. And so they did get the Moscow Patriarchate. That was their kind of main figurehead there, Bulgarian Patriarchate, some of the other key bishoprics in the Soviet satellite states. But they didn't really care about most of the bishops and Orthodox priests throughout Russia because they weren't really relevant to geopolitics.
Right.
They're not going to forcibly install a KGB priest and bishop in every place in Russia. It's just unfeasible. But if you focus on these key political offices like Moscow Patriarchate or something like that, that's a lot more effective and useful. And that's important to dispel the sort of exaggerations that idiots have. Oh, everybody in the Russian church was in the KGB. And, I interviewed Metropolitan Jonah several years ago, and he talked about the tiered system that they had. And that's actually what's outlined in the Matrokin archives, is that they had a tier system, the Soviets did, which was the first tier was people that were compromisable. Second tier, which was people who were quiet, but we don't have to worry about. And then the third tier was like, they just ignored. So not everybody was KGB. Thus, to make that relevant to what you're talking about with Ukraine, Ukraine plays this key role as well geopolitically for the West. And believe it or not, the best method for understanding a big part of why Ukraine is so important is this book that I've been getting really deep into. This is a academic text. It's not a,
Those are my favorite.
Vatican Spies. I mean, it's an academic / journalism text. So this is a French journalist who went really deep into this. So keep in mind, it's kind of written from a modern sort of liberal perspective. Okay. But what he goes into is the Vatican's history of espionage, particularly the Ukraine was a huge area for the Vatican during the Cold War, and also the CIA. And this is part of that CIA Vatican alliance they would send many, many, many Uniate priests, many Jesuits into the Ukraine during the Cold War because they were combating the Soviets. And so this was a Western strategy of using not just the existing Protestant groups or evangelical groups, but Uniatism. Uniatism was a huge factor in defeating the Soviets in the Cold War, and that Vatican Spies book backs that up. That's why Ukraine to this day is still such an important hub of Western espionage, geopolitics, and religious warfare, particularly with not just the fake Ukrainian Orthodox Church, but also Uniates and evangelicals there, supported by the CIA.
Right. And with the Epstein stuff, I mean, it came out, which we already were speculating, biolabs in Ukraine, organ harvesting, like literally selling organs of soldiers that
Epstein himself was meeting with Zelensky.
Yeah, exactly. Which it's amazing how many people don't even know that Zelensky was an actor playing the president of Ukraine as a comedian. Because I knew that back in 2017, 18 was that show was going. It was the biggest TV show in Ukraine. And then he creates a party during the last season of that show, and then right when it ends, he announces he's running for president. It's like,
oh, you must be schizo for talking about that, because
yeah,
you're right. There's no reason to even talk about that unless you're schizophrenic. So
right. And Metropolitan Neophytos of Morphu always calls him the Khazar in Ukraine. But what are your thoughts about the Russia-Ukraine war, generally speaking? I mean, you don't have to get into the day-to-day. I know that
I think it's a long-term old vendetta. You've talked about that. You've done streams on that. I mentioned it on the 4th hour of Lord Voldemort today, that this is in the language of Dune, Conley, the ancient vendetta. Are you a Dune fan at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they bring that up, in the movies and in the books, that ancient vendetta is a big part of that dystopian future sci-fi world. But it's reflecting our world. So yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. I want to say Odessa has been a long-term, ancient Ashkenazi sort of region. So there's a long-term battle there spiritually and geopolitically. That's part of it, but also, you have essentially the American Imperium is sort of replaying things that were fought back in World War I and World War II, because after World War I, you had the Galen network essentially set up all of its tiny mustache man soldiers in the Ukraine, this is very bizarre, because why would this be this Khazarian sort of region? And you have these, Azov Battalion and all these different tiny mustache man organizations, which are the holdovers of Reinhard Galen's intelligence network there. So that I think also kind of helps illustrate why a lot of that's fake and gay. A lot of the, World War II tiny mustache LARPing that people do.
And I was trying to pull up an article. I'm not finding it immediately, but if like back in 2022, the WEF put out an article about how BlackRock was going to rebuild Ukraine into like one of the first smart nations. Like, we know smart.
You can pull up that clip of, it's there. It's like a future smart city, super smart city location. You can pull up that clip where Zelensky's saying, "BlackRock, please come to Ukraine. We want you." I'm serious. No, there's a clip of him saying that now that we have Ukraine open to West, we want all of company BlackRock come to Ukraine, put up business here. He actually said that.
I believe it. And I covered, and Colonel Douglas McGregor was talking about this, that there was like 30,000 Jews that moved to southern Ukraine, like during the war right now. And they've created their own police force, and they have their own, like, they took over a whole city. They have their own little town there in southern Ukraine. And I showed an article, I forget what Israeli publisher it was, but it was talking about how Ukraine can be the second Israel, which, again, if you're a conspiracy theorist, I don't know, strangely correlates with a bunch of theories that people have had for years.
Yeah, exactly. I have to get that book out again about Black Gold Spies, because they were listing all the different potential places for, Israeli homeland or second Israeli homeland. And I can't remember if they put Ukraine there or not, but probably.
Well, and interesting enough, both Argentina, if you look at Argentina and Ukraine, in their vicinity, in their areas, ginormous percentage of Jewish population. I think Argentina has the largest in South America, or close to, and of course they have the most pro-Zionist president of all the South American countries.
Yeah.
He literally weeps like a child kissing the Wailing Wall. Malay's a strange guy. He's into like Kabbalah and all this weird sex stuff. But yeah, so
Yeah, but he's libertarian, bro. Why are you judging?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, libertarian is going to save us. Meanwhile, he literally sells the public waterway to Israel, an Israeli company. Anywho,
Well, I mean, when does libertarianism actually mean anything? Because almost every time, like any libertarian is in some prominent position, they're like immediately fake and gay and selling out to everything.
well,
And they go woke. They're like libertarians all go woke too. Like their whole party basically went woke.
legitimately. And you make a good point about like people like Joe Kent, who he's said some really good things about Ukraine and the intelligence agencies and how he was blocked on the Charlie Kirk and Butler assassination attempt while he was working for Tulsi Gabbard. But he recently was saying, oh yeah, all of us, disenfranchised MAGA supporters, we should just join the Libertarian Party and take that over. And I know your thing isn't focusing on politics per se, but just strategically, that sounds like a terrible idea. You can't get out of this false dialectic two-party system. And if you voluntarily split your party into two parties, I mean, you essentially concede victory to the other side.
Yeah, I don't know how this. I mean, I know that there was that meeting with Tucker and MTG and other people talking about creating a third party, and maybe they were just sort of batting around ideas about co-opting some of the existing thing. I don't even know if that would work with. I mean, I just don't know. I do like the idea of some other party. I mean,
for sure,
it makes sense, and I would
disagree
definitely align with that third party. But yeah, I just don't know enough about the mechanics of politics to know how feasible that even is because probably the Libertarian Party has their own sort of bylaws about and if they already went woke 3 or 4 years ago,
very woke. I mean, they're like pro tranny stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how you would.
They're not exactly an ally. It's like, oh, but they like low taxes. Yeah, but they think that men with dicks are women. So I don't think low taxes is the issue we die on or agree. Build an alliance with these people. It makes no sense.
Yeah, it's just such a challenge because in politics, you're almost forced to try to make these broad alliances and have an umbrella, a broad big tent. Everybody's forced to try to have this big tent, but how can you have a big tent when all these other groups are like basically degenerate losers?
Right.
I'm talking about. Remember with Trump, it was like, oh, we need big tent conservatism. We need the
look where that's gotten us.
We need the beige drag queen, right?
Exactly.
Remember they were pushing that.
Absolutely. He was talking about the craziness of the woke while he's standing next to Caitlyn Jenner. It's like, what? He's in Mar-a-Lago talking about the woke, and like Caitlyn Jenner's there like, yeah, that's right. Men shouldn't be in women's sports with his breast implants and his. It's so crazy. None of it makes any sense at all. But I had a couple more questions.
That's why we need a worldview. We need a
absolutely.
We need the Orthodox Christian worldview, and you're not going to get success with these sort of ridiculous WWE political things.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Just a couple more questions, then we'll answer some super chats and get out of here. I know you're busy. You hosted the 4th hour of Alex Jones today and stuff like that, so I don't want to keep you all night here. But one topic I would like to get your perspective on, if you've been following it all, is like the Andrew Tate arrest. And it's not a huge issue, but it's one people were speculating about. Do you think the Trump administration will extradite? And, me personally, and we did a whole stream on your channel on the manosphere and talking about that when it was, 2023 was like the height of the red pill manosphere phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked a little bit about the agreement on the descriptions of the world, but disagreement on prescriptions on what to do about it. And I'm not saying the Tate brothers are, you know, the idol paragons of virtue or anything like that, but based on what I've seen with the, you know, the Romanian case, it seems like if it was such a clear-cut case, they would already be in jail. And then with the arrest in Florida, and there's speculation about DeSantis doing this to put Trump in a pickle, where if he extradites, he looks bad. But if he doesn't extradite, then they can say he agrees with rapist or something like that. I'm just curious what your general thoughts are on the Tate arrest and the extradition.
I think there's significant evidence outside of all of that stuff that they're pretty high tier con men. I think they run a pretty
fair
consistent
enough.
con.
Absolutely fair enough on that.
Whether that means they were necessarily guilty of all of the extreme charges, I don't know, but I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
It's also possible that they have, you know, factions of the power structure that support them that are wealthy, perhaps.
Yeah.
I know that,
I think they were at the Trump inauguration.
Well, they also, I mean, before they started pushing Islam, they had that famous meeting with the Saudi royals, and then suddenly, you know, Tate comes out pushing Islam in the West.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah.
I'm not aware that they had a meeting with the
they had
Saudi royals before that.
Pretty sure they basically, right before he came out as this Islam pusher, they went to have some dinner with the Saudi royals. So,
and there is like that schizophrenia where he's again, agree with him, vocal about Islam in England and how, you know, he can't wear his watch when he drives his Bugatti in London and the crime. And yet then he promotes Islam. And so he's like talking about the problems with England and you know, England's not the country he grew up in, but then he identifies as Muslim and promotes Islam to all these young men that follow him. It seems kind of schizophrenic or bipolar on that issue.
Well, I also think there's a connection between the push for underage things in the West and the push for Islam. And, you know, when we've seen these debates, for example, with Hakikachu, these high profile debates that like Andrew did and others, it gradually has come out. More and more people are starting to see, oh, actually, these high profile Muslim debaters, they're actually just pushing like underage crazy stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that that makes it plausible to me. I don't know, but that, you know, you could have the Tates involved in that kind of stuff, but I don't know. So I don't, but I think it's also
Trump will extradite.
I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, I think it's curious that we got nothing with Epstein, anybody at the Epstein level.
Not a thing.
But they're going to go for this lower tier of organized crime. I mean, okay, then also go for the higher tier organized crime.
What does what do you think is the, I don't know, the takeaway with the Trump administration's handling of the Epstein files?
Disaster.
I mean, do you think it reveals that Trump is compromised? Or
I don't. I mean, again, I don't know, but I wouldn't be.
I'm just curious what your personal opinion is.
I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. We haven't really seen strong evidence of that, but there's, you know, something that enables, and maybe they don't even have to enable. Maybe it's just because Trump just is a Zionist. Maybe, you know, like they're able to really get him to do what they want.
It sure seems like it.
What that is, maybe it's just because he actually believes that, you know, Zionism.
One question I would be remiss not to ask is, what books are you reading right now? Because I know whenever we get together, we always talk about the latest books we've been reading, and I'll share some. Maybe you'll get some that I recommend, or I typically get some that you recommend. What are you diving into right now? What's kind of your interest?
Well, we did most recent Global Elite Books talk that we did on my channel was this very large, I think it was about a 500 or 600 page history of the OSS and its founding and its sort of main key figures. There was chapters on Bill Donovan and James Jesus Angleton, Alan Dulles, and so there was a lot of great history nuggets and insights in that book. It's a little technical and boring to get through, but it's very comparable to something like Tragedy and Hope. So you know, we had a lot of fun, I think, with a normally boring text. So we did that text recently on my channel. We also went into the Rothschilds of approved, not official, but approved biography by Morton. So we're we're going to get into the last third of that. I'm 2/3 the way through it. I'm also enjoying a more conspiratorial text on the Rothschilds, John Coleman's Rothschild family. And, Coleman's a controversial figure, but in my experience, he's more right than he is wrong. I would say he's usually 80-90% correct, even if he's not the best at sourcing things. And sometimes he's a little out there, but I would say he's pretty much spot on for the most part. And we're going to be going through the Coleman text. I'm enjoying also this, as I said, this journalist's pretty academic book on the history of Vatican espionage.
I just put that one in my shopping cart. I'm going to buy that one.
Yeah, that one's good. It's like a history book, but very academic. So be prepared for more academic stuff. The Coleman book is very readable and quick, but it is a conspiracy book, but I think it's accurate. And then I think we're going to get more into, Quranic stuff, because we do have a little bit more Islamic, there are more Muslim debates coming up. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of tired from yapping a lot.
No, you're fine, bro. Don't worry about it.
To be like, I'm just kind of yapped out.
No,
but
I get it. You come on, you're low energy. You make my program look like shit. It's all good, dude. I get it.
Low energy. Making the program look low energy. Very sad, probably.
Anyway, but
no,
yeah, I think we're gonna be doing more debates, as we said. We got a lot. So there's a book by Norman Geisler that's pretty good. Even though he's evangelical, he wrote a book called Answering Islam, and I'm about a third of the way through that one. That one's pretty good. So we gotta brush up on some of these papacy texts for the Trent Horn debate. So that's what I'm getting into. And then we're going to have to get into Michael Garton's book on icons, because that's obviously going to be relevant for the David Wood debate. But I really think that David Wood is basically just going to regurgitate everything that Gavin Ortland says. He's not going to bring anything new.
I don't see, based on what I saw with Wood, I don't even see him doing the due diligence to actually do research.
You're probably just
steel man your position to actually undermine it.
He's going to read off AI.
Yeah,
serious. I think he will.
And then the last question I told you at the beginning I wanted to end with is, what do you think is the biggest psyop or conspiracy that people should be aware of going on right now?
Ooh, that's a tough one. The biggest one right now. Okay, I think I know what it is. And it goes back to the beginning. People getting sucked into 30, 60-second reels and TikTok brain and rage bait.
That's a real one, dude.
Because one thing I said when, the Candace Andrew debate happened, and then, looking at everybody's reactions, I noticed that immediately after the debate, the only thing anybody cared about was the clipping a 30 or 60-second gotcha.
Right.
And that influenced, probably the majority of the viewers of the debate.
Right.
When you had, at the end, Candace had the gotcha on exactly what the charges were, and that immediately went viral right after it. And I'm just thinking, like, this was a 4-hour debate, and you're essentially going to make a decision of the whole thing in a 30, 60-second reel. And I'm like, the technocrats won the debate. That's who won that debate, because they're really winning in the long run with essentially everybody getting hit with a retard ray. That's what's happening.
Yeah, and the outrage is a way to manipulate, right? You look at any sort of mind programming or mind control, the manipulation of passions and getting people to emote is part of that manipulation process.
Well, actually, we covered the NATO PSYOP document 3 or 4 years ago. This was during the coup. We covered one of those. It's a cognitive warfare document, and one of the sections in NATO's cognitive warfare document talks about weaponizing online rage and trolling. And that was just one little sort of a few paragraphs of the PSYOP document, and that's the whole internet right now.
Right. It is. If you have a few minutes, we can run through some of these super chats. I think some people had some questions they're curious to get your thoughts on, and then I'll get you out of here, I promise. Thank you, Deedle Dumpling, for becoming a Coda Crew member, along with Nick Flip and Ortho Bro Dude. Victor Ziegler said, "Let's get the hype going, Pay Piggies." That's right. I need to play your Pay Piggy song right now.
Well, I think you guys should, if you want something entertaining, not that you're not entertaining, but if I'm low energy.
I never shot fired. I get it.
Low energy Jay tonight would direct you to the high energy debate that I had with the Blacktivist a couple nights ago. It was a lot of fun. It was entertaining. It's on the No Fugazi channel, and it's called "Is Christianity Good and True and Good for All People?" And this was he's a little bit different than Captain Tazariak, who's a Black Hebrew Israelite. This guy is a secular Black activist who also is adjacent to Manosphere, red pill stuff, and it was very bizarre. I don't know if I've ever had a debate like that. It's kind of like Black tea dump, basically.
Yeah. I caught like I would say a 10-minute section from it.
Yeah.
And I saw you talking, and it was the point where you asked him to reiterate the question, and
He don't wanna
acted
do
like,
it.
well, you're a smart dude. And it was like he forgot his own question. He was trying to put it on you.
Yeah. Well, it was also the first time that like this was a much like the majority of this debate was like epistemology and him just basically saying, slavery, Christianity is guilty, and I'm like,
yeah,
that's a
slavery bad, so Christianity wrong.
yeah, I'm like, it's a non sequitur, but it was my first time debating like that kind of an ethics debate.
Texas Nevsky, Coda Crew member, says, "Let's go." Thank you very much, brother. And a generous support from Anthony throws in $100. No comment. Thank you very much, brother. Nephilim Bone Excavator throws in 5, says, "First time catching alive in a while. The good doctor has been cooking this week. God bless you, brothers." Well, thank you, Nephilim. And Blink 444 just says, "Tithes to the church." That's right. Send your tithes in. Your absolution will come afterwards. Simon Plays throws in 20, says, "I'm being chrismated this Sunday." Well, glory to God, brother. Thank you, DPH and Jay Dyer, for all the work you both do. I'm a former Oriental Orthodox. And your guys' work helped me discover the truth of Eastern Orthodoxy. Well, glory to God for that, man. Thank you for the support.
Yeah, I would also say there's a huge thought going on with the Haggards, because people are not realizing the transition that Tristan and others have undergone. They're treating them like they're dead naming them as if they're still males, and it's like that the guy's not a male anymore.
And for somehow he forgot the A in Tristana in his handle here.
Exactly.
So
well, that's part of the psyop.
at this point.
That's part of the psyop.
And I'm not going to let you come in here, Tristan, and just try to sow division between two Orthodox brothers. Yeah. Like, you need to repent, you need to confess, and you need to listen to your wife. Is what you need to do.
And the wife's boyfriend.
Yeah,
that's a classic Tristan joke I stole there.
If words are violence, consider yourself slain, my friend. David James Flood gives the Codal Crew membership. Thank you very much. And Josiah Elleron throws in 10, says, "God bless you. I will be visiting Snagglebeast the 27th through the 30th. We should drive down and see you." Yeah, let's do it. I'm waiting for the questions. People were supposed to ask you questions. Just have to say, Jay's videos on theology helped me leave Roman Catholicism and into Orthodoxy. Glory to God.
Awesome.
And thanks for the Emperor of Byzantium. Absolutely.
Yeah. Peace to my peoples.
What are some of the perks of being emperor? Do you have your own retinue, or your own like color guard, like the Pope, or what's going on?
That is not for public consumption. There's an NDA. There's an NDA right now presently about that material.
Okay, well, I don't want to be litigated, so I'll leave that one alone.
We are presently engaged in a litigation against Pastor. What's Jim Bob's fake pastor?
Pastor Mike.
Pastor Mike is currently in litigations with Randy Balls.
To be fair, my husband got turbo cancer and never took the jab, although his employer forced several of the, quote, tests, if that's what they really were. Well, shout out to you, Kristen. Actually, I met Kristen and her husband with you, Jay, in Nashville. You and Jamie.
I remember that.
We went and had barbecue together.
Yo.
Blink 4444 throws in 10, says, "To the point of people getting dumber, I heard a commentary on the Owens/Wilson debate that Andrew failed by having a prepared opening statement." What?
Yeah, that was the first sort of bizarre, claim that if you read an opening statement, you're losing. And I'm like, that's
That's
standard.
very common.
Bizarre,
These
yeah.
people have never gone like in academia. That is actually how it's normally done. It's more uncommon if you freestyle.
Exactly. Right.
Like everything is super structured, and you basically, if you go to an academic formal debate, they basically read until they get to a cross examination.
Exactly.
One foot out the door throws in 10 says, "What's the Orthodox stance on the book of or the books of Enoch?"
I think we would say that it contains true tradition, like the Proto-Evangelium of James, but doesn't have to be canonical, even if it contains true tradition.
Yeah. We're finishing up this Tuesday reading book 4, Kingdom of Heaven, and book 5, Epistle of Enoch. And I did a whole section with the guys in the Logos Academy. And the Orthodox Church, to Jay's point, it's one of the more popular Second Temple Jewish texts. So that's why it's historically important. It was incredibly popular, and many of the apostles had read it. That's why we literally see it in the epistles. But in regards to it being revelation, the Orthodox Church has taken a firm stance. It's not revelation. So is it interesting? Is it
Well, but it could
historically important?
contain revealed truths like
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, but it's not a canonical text, or
Right.
should have been. And in fact, even Jews didn't consider it to be, because there's no way it could be written by Enoch. So that was a huge problem even amongst Jews during the Second Temple period, despite it being the most popular apocalyptic text at the time. So interesting text. Read the Bible before you dive into the book of Enoch, but it is interesting nonetheless, and it's very Christological. So you can't help but read the book of Enoch and see it's pointing towards Christ. It's very explicit. Ortho Bro Dude says, listening to World War Now, I think, and Tribulation of Saints, kind of black pill. Well, don't black pill, dude. Like all the eschatology, I always say this, the eschatology stuff is not to be black pilled or to think that we know the specific day. There's signs of the times. They help you understand. I would say if you're black pilling, it's probably because you're not praying enough. If you're diving into Orthodox stuff that black pills you, get out of it. You need to be rooted in your prayer life and stuff like that. Make sure you're going to church. Paul throws in 5, says, I always heard Jay mean, but I saw him in action and he's not that mean. People have gotten too soft. Actually, he is. He beat up my wife when I introduced him to her. And he's a woman beater. He yelled at me in a very gross and humiliating way in front of everyone. So
Wait, are you the woman I
true.
beat?
What's that?
Are you the woman I beat? I'm confused.
Yeah, that's true. He actually fondled my breast as well. There was sexual harassment. Ortho Bro Dudes throws in 2. No comment. Thank you very much. And Super Nick became a Coda Crew member. Thank you. Austin DeTulio throws in 20, says taxes. That's right. I call them tithes. I'm not Jim Bob here. I'm not taxing my audience like Jim Bob. He's a real bagel, as they call him in his chat. Journey of Abundance says, Jay, I feel like a collab between you and Robert Breedlove. I don't know who that is. WIM.
He pushed it. He's a Bitcoin guy. I've reached out, but he has a pretty big X, so he probably doesn't really pay attention to like DMs and stuff.
Oh,
but
okay.
if you mention me like in the comments is the best way to do that.
Okay, well, guys, anyone watching, go flood Robert Breedlove's X feed. Get Jay over on his Bitcoin channel. So he's a big Bitcoin guy.
Yeah, that's his only thing is just Bitcoin.
I know Journey of Abundance. He's actually a personal friend of mine, so fellow Hoosier. And I know he's big into the crypto and very aware of all that stuff. Lockstep throws in 5, says, took a break from being a cowboy to watch. Well, I'm glad you got off the saddle. Journey of Abundance throws another 5. There's a reason why libertarians can't agree about abortion. They don't even agree on what liberty means. Yeah,
exactly.
Fair enough.
Yeah, exactly.
And last one on YouTube, Nathaniel throws in 10, says, have you seen the news about how the woke game developers at EA are freaking out about the company being bought out of Saudi Arabia? I don't really have an opinion. Woke versus Islam is just Satan versus the devil. You're out of my wheelhouse. I don't play video games, so I'm very, very unaware of.
I do play video games. I am a degen. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think that people have noticed the, sales ever since Gamergate and all of that, right? Like the more they push the sort of leftist woke agenda in games, the quality thus, basically declines. And so when you play, I'm not saying every game that comes out these days, but basically 2015, 2016, the quality has not improved since then for games. At least the big system games when it comes to like PS5 or whatever. But I'm sure there's awesome computer games. I don't play computer games, but the thing is, just like Wack points out with skateboarding, like woke it's everywhere. There's no area where you don't find it.
Shout out to Wack, by the way. That's a great dude.
Yeah, he is a great dude. One of my favorite dudes. And
you introduced me to him in Florida.
Yeah. You don't get away from woke even in skateboarding. You know what I mean? I mean, they push trans skateboarders as some like revolutionary thing.
Right.
It's so ridiculous.
So are you hyped about GTA 6 coming out?
I've never played that game. I'm very selective with. I play like Final Fantasies. I play Resident Evils. I play Tomb Raider. I play RPGs and adventure games. That's about it. I don't play.
I thought
I've never played that.
Retirement scheme. Is GTA 6 supposed to allow people to earn crypto inside the game?
I didn't know that. I don't know. I know Jim Bob had played it. Jim
Bob,
off
the debate scene, jumping off the internet. You're just gonna go.
I'm not leaving the internet. No. I know Jim Bob has done like GTA streams, and they're funny to watch, but I've never played it, so I don't know.
Bruce Wilkins throws in 5, says, Jay, do you think debate bro culture by academia? Oh, interesting question. Making debate mean spontaneous argument while formal discourse feels contrived.
What's the question?
Do you think that the debate bro culture online filled the gap left by academia?
Maybe to a degree.
Yeah. Sadly, I think a lot of people who watch debates can't even understand debate. I mean, a lot of people who do debates they don't even know what fallacies are. They don't even know what the game of the debate is. Like there's a game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's becoming just pure entertainment. And I suppose on one level that's a little bit better than, if everybody was just finding entertainment in something totally degenerate. But there's also a downside to it, to where it's like not very serious or rigorous or academic. It's just turning into gotchas, and I don't know if we can stop it. I don't know what the answer is to that. I mean, FDA wants it to be like, he's only going to do like academic type debate, which is fine, but there's no easy answers to that.
Yeah. But even the academic debates, nobody understands what you're saying, probably,
and they're not going to watch, and nobody's going to watch
the audience, maybe.
Well, the dumber the people get, they can't understand. Yeah,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
As people get dumb, they can't understand a high tier debate, so they tune out, and they're not even capable of noticing or seeing who actually won or lost.
Right. Exactly. If you're interested in the actual arguments, formal, high-level debates are the best. But I think for the majority of people, that's why. And there's a place for blood sports. Don't get me wrong. But I think for most people, it's just they just react. They don't actually understand.
Exactly.
Tribulation of the Saints says, guess me and World War Now are blackpilling by reporting news now. It's all right. God bless you, brother. I know you do good work. It's a him problem. It's not a you problem. Blink 4444 throws in 5, says, about to get dinner with Darth Grumpy Dad. Oh, I know who that is. Thank you very much, brother. Maverick B. Evans, debating on Clubhouse sometimes. I suck. How can I become a good debater? Specialize, drill the ancient basics. Must I read all philosophy?
Well, I have a philosophy course for sale. That's what I would recommend.
And my thing too, and I'm not taking a shot at you, Maverick. I have no background information, so this is not directed at you. But one of the things I've noticed is some of these young guys, especially like early 20s or late teens, they want to become debaters, but they have no information to debate. You see, like learning the laws of logic or fallacies is one thing. Mm-hmm. You have to learn then all the information you're debating about. And it's like, gain a specialty in some type of domain and then debate. I think a lot of people just want to debate for the sake of debate. They have no specialty.
Yeah.
They haven't put the hours in to do research to have something to debate about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Orthodox Phronesis says, let's get a W for the moms, the wives, the girlfriends in the chat. Simp. Russia was saved because of the prayers of the mothers. St. Paisius. No, good point. God bless you, Orthodox Phronesis. Thank you so much, brother, for the support. And let me just wrap up here. On Streamlabs, Diesel throws in 10, says Kodal and Dyer streams are my favorite. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, thank you. And Thor and Oakenshield throws in 10, says great collab, 2 inspirations, humble to learn from you guys. Well, thank you very much, my man.
Thank you, man.
Oh, we just had 2 more. I promise, guys, Jay's got to get out. Do you got a headache, or is it the light?
I'm just getting tired from we were at the hospital yesterday, so we're alternating days, so we have to drive to a whole city. It's like an hour away, so then we spend the day at the hospital and then we drive back. So
yeah, I know we talked about that backstage. I don't want to say anything that you haven't said publicly.
I've already said all of it publicly.
Pray for Jay and his family, for everyone out there that I don't know if you've already made
the prayers have helped. He's stabilized and he's a lot better than he was 3 days ago. So appreciate the prayers
for that. Justin Foster, when we secede from union and form Murica Ortho Empire, ideally would hit a red button on the internet. What role should the net and games have in our world? Well, we're not Luddites. Orthodoxy is not a Luddite religion. Technology can't have a will, so it can't be evil in of itself. I don't think that you necessarily hit the red button on the internet. But thank you very much, Justin. And then Bruce, I am sure sometimes you guys get discouraged, but my recent journey to Orthodoxy is at least in some part due to the beatdowns I've received from Jay. Oh, is this someone who's debated with you?
Who is
and
this?
Others in Discord on online spaces. I am truly a victim of the rock in the shoe after many. Well, at least you're not a victim of him groping you and then beating you in public like I am.
I don't know who that is, but that's good news if it's legit.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Bruce, for the generous support, man, and glory to God on your journey to the Orthodox Church. And Chain Wax, the last one, and we'll get out of here, says focus on seeking truth in debate rather than some feminine desire to be right.
Yeah, that's the way to win debates, is to be concerned with what's true first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us, guys. Smash that like. Major thank you to Jay for giving us the
absolutely, man.
Time today.
It's a lot of fun.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate all the work you do. And I appreciate your friendship. So
absolutely.
Hopefully we can
Likewise.
link up sometime in the future again.
Absolutely. Also, guys, check out today's 4th hour that'll be up on X, and then also get your tickets to the upcoming debates that we're doing. We got, as we said, David Wood, Trent Horn.
Yeah, Maverick said, where is Jay selling the debate content?
Selling debate content.
I think he meant your philosophy course.
If you go to every one of my live streams or every one of my videos, there's a link to buy that course underneath it.
Okay. So just go to his YouTube channel and look in the video description.
Yeah.
All right. All right. That's going to do it for us. God bless you guys. And I will see you Monday when Jim Bob and I dive into Jordan Maxwell and Michael Tessarian's astrotheology.
Perfect.
So, I will see you guys then. As always, until next time, God bless.